If we would have just kept up with inflation, then the minimum wage rate now would be $26 an hour. Most people don't go into McDonald's saying, oh, this is my life for the next 50 years.
You're trading hours for dollars. That's what it is.
Americans in the lowest income bracket die nearly 10 to 15 years younger than those in the highest income bracket.
But I still think that on an individual level, we have to ultimately put the responsibility on the person.
Those people who are really anti-homeless, really against homeless people, is it's like you just don't know. Any moment, any time of your life, it could happen to you.
I think trickle down makes sense more to me if you actually turn the entire triangle upside down.
So now your mental health's getting worse, which is going to make your physical health get worse. You don't have the proper health care because you're poor in the first place. It's just all building up. Live from Garbage Island, where the rent is still expensive, it's the Socially Awkwards podcast. I am the mayhem, and he is the chaos, and we are the Socially Awkwards. Welcome to the pod. Today is a day of wonder, a day of thought, a day of candid conversation as we talk about living poor in the good old USA. But first, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you, Brandon. I got some stats for you about poverty and poorness, all the good stats that everybody loves to hear. You ready? All right. Poverty limit in the U.S. If you're a family of four, the poverty line is $31,200. If you're a single person, the poverty line is $15,060. The official poverty rate is 10.6%, which is about 36 million people. Child poverty is at 13.4%. Poverty by race, 18.4% for Black individuals, which is the highest, and 7.5% for Asians, who among all ethnic groups have the lowest poverty rate in the U.S. Most people under the poverty line are working and they're paying taxes. Brandon, do you think that the poverty line should be higher, lower, or remain the same?
I think that it should be higher, especially when I'm hearing 31. I think you said 31,000 for a family of four.
31,200. Yeah, and granted,
Yeah.
like what you should be seeing, because basically they're doubling it and they're adding a little bit more. But a family of four is obviously not four adults. Granted, that shouldn't matter as much, but it's so basically what they're saying is that two adults who make $31,200, if they're under that, they're in poverty. And obviously we should let people know that that usually means then you can get Medicaid, you can get help, you can get a lot more help from the government, your SNAP card, for your food stamps and all that. So yeah, I do get what you're saying, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I do think that generally speaking, that poverty line, the way we define it, should probably be higher, especially given modern inflation, especially what's happened over the last 5 years. I don't know what that line exactly means. I know that like the less you make, the more you're eligible for certain services like food benefits or Medicaid. But I don't know, does Medicaid use the poverty line as their decider, or is that,
Yeah.
or is there that's the main
That
thing
is their decider. Yeah.
that's their decider.
SNAP
So
card is a little bit different. Like you can still get some food benefits if you make over that amount, but it's going to be greatly reduced. If you make
yeah.
under that amount, I think you get the maximum you can get, like per person or whatever it is, and then per child if you have.
Yeah, so it does seem like these poverty lines should be a little bit higher than where they are now. And there should also be, I would be interested in hearing what kind of a gradient there is, but I think there should be some sort of a gradient drop off, a spectrum between being in poverty and not being in poverty. And I know you mentioned that with like SNAP benefits that we already kind of institute some sort of program that's like that, but I don't think that is done well enough. That being said, and this isn't by any means a complete counterpoint to the idea of the poverty lines, but we do have a culture in the US of adults living by themselves. And in other countries, there's more of a European idea of like multi-generational families that live under a single house. And so like where I'm tying this to is that the poverty line for a single adult being at 15,000. And I think that for a single adult who's expected to go and try to live out on their own and support themselves off of $15,000, or let's say they make 16,000, so now they're not in poverty. 16,000 is not enough for a single adult to be living out there on their own, paying $2,000 in rent every month. So it's a multifaceted issue, but one thing is just like this culture where like you could do it as a single adult if you are living with family longer, or roommating is more of an acceptable living situation, which I think that people do. But so
I think
there's a
more
there's a
people are living with their parents now than ever before. I'm not sure about ever before, but it sounds like that it's like
yeah,
more than ever before. Yeah.
yeah, and I agree, and I think that we should all remove some of the societal like stigma around what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like it used to just be looked at as sort of a failure to launch scenario. And the failure to launch idea is like where you have this like 25-year-old child who's still living with their parents
Right.
and they haven't moved out. I think that there's a bad reason why that can be happening, but I think there's also a good reason why that could happening. I think the good reason is like a family sticking together and helping each other out to pay less money overall, while each person is still following their passions and dreams and developing themselves. And I think that we should have more allocation for this sort of a culture. Um, that being said, that's by no means my opinion to say that our poverty line is high enough, because I do think that it needs to be raised. So I think both those
Definitely.
things are sort of true at once.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about families living together. It's a Europe thing. It's definitely big in Japan and in other parts of Asia. And it's not looked down upon like it is here in the US, and maybe it's just Western culture, I'm not sure, like as a whole. But um yeah, it gets tough because it's really weird to me because we did an episode about healthcare a couple of weeks back, or maybe a month back now. Go check it out. It's on YouTube or Spotify, whatever platform you'd like. Um, and we had discussed what the middle income, like the families that are at like the middle income, or what do they call them? They call them middle class. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to think of the word. The middle class families, and that was like that started at 40,000. And so it's like, wow, you've got the pop already, like there's some discrepancies there, right? So you've got the poverty line. Now, granted, the 40,000 is for one person. Mm. So right there, it's about a $25,000 difference between, you're at 15,000. If you're under 15, you're under poverty. But like you said, or you're under the poverty line. But even like you said, if you get up to even if you get up to 20, 25, honestly, dude, even if you're making $31,000 nowadays as a single person, that still might not be enough with the way things cost and rent and everything else.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something that needs to be done. I don't know, we can sit here and talk about how the federal minimum wage hasn't changed in what, like over 20, 30 years. It's still at 750, 775, whatever it is. I think it's 775. Now, granted, most states aren't adhering to that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's any states out there hiring people for 775, but if they are, shame on them. If there's businesses out there doing that, um, because it's not the world we live in anymore. And what did I see? I saw something where if we would have just kept up with inflation, then the minimum wage right now would be $26 an hour. And but so it's like, it's always like a bad balance, right? Like something happens, like inflation goes way up, and then the wages are just like, and honestly, without COVID happening, I don't know if that big fight for wages, because that was kind of a big fight, right? Like about, okay, we should at least have 15 or more or whatever. And now it's really hard to find a job for less than that. Because everybody kind of got on board and realized that, we got to pay these guys. So it is interesting that we had to go through that kind of bad shit with COVID and a pandemic and stuff too, and then that kind of what held, made the standard higher for a better wage. What do you like? Would you agree with a $26 minimum wage now? Because if you say that to people, they're going to be like, "Well, that's way too much. You're gonna make businesses go foul." And honestly, when they say, "Hey, if we would adjusted wages with inflation to $26, that's what it should be now, is $26 an hour as a minimum wage. If we would have done that steadily, then nobody would be batting an eye. But we can't obviously just be like, oh, now it goes up from 775 to $20 more practically to $26, and then there would be a problem. So what do you have to say about all that?
I'm glad you asked. I don't have I have a mixed opinion about this because I think that in different areas you have cost of living differences. So I understand at a minimum why you have states that are allowed to set their own minimum wage requirements and what they're going to do. We also have federal minimum wage, but that's usually much lower because
Right.
it's a blanket
I don't
for
think
the
any
country.
state is at, I mean, they're all above federal. I don't know 100% for sure, but I'm pretty sure that they're all above
Yeah.
federal minimum
I think they
wage.
have to be, don't they? Isn't that what the
Well, they have
federal
to
is
be
designed
added at least,
at it? Yeah.
but,
Oh,
I mean, but I think that they're, like, quite above it now. I mean, what is our state at now? We just raised it again. I mean, it's still not up to 15, but right
yeah,
now
we
the
just
the
raised
minimum
it.
wage doesn't even really mean that much anymore because companies are just paying above it. So,
Yeah.
this is probably the best time to raise it federally, I would assume. Like, just do it
Yeah.
because companies are already paying that anyways, and so who knows? But yeah, sorry, continue.
So on one hand, I sort of see the idea because I like there's a part of capitalism I like where it's real competition for people that are for the businesses that provide good products because people end up voting with their dollars. And I sort of can see the argument where it should be this way with wages, where um in a utopian capitalist situation, companies compete for wages and workers just don't work at the places that don't pay them enough. Those businesses, they either die out or they uh provide a competitive wage for people, and so people do work there, and so it's sort of like a survival of the fittest in that sense, where the wages equalize with what people are willing to work for. But in the real world, in a practical sense, I think that there's too much of a gap in between getting to getting to the point where we are now and to where we think wages ought to be. And what that gap looks like is a huge period of people being taken advantage of and being forced to take jobs where they are being severely underpaid for work where they ought not to be underpaid for. But I also see the point of people who work, like I've seen the argument, for example, where somebody works a job that's meant to be a starter job and say it's a part-time job. And it's like, what should that wage look like? I don't know if that should be what was the argument? $26? Is that what
Yeah,
we're
I
at?
mean, that's just yeah, if it were to be adjusted to what inflation is now.
Yeah, $26. I could see that there should be a requirement. I like the argument where if you work full time at a job, you should be able to support yourself. At a base minimum, working full time should put you above the poverty line, no matter where you're
Well,
working.
what would you say to the people who argue that because there's all these people that do have these jobs and they start off at like Burger King and McDonald's or something, and there's people out there who think that those people shouldn't have because they think they are starter jobs. And it's like, well, yeah, but those places have to have workers all the time. So I don't really get that argument of them being a starter job. I understand it is for a lot of people. Most people don't go into McDonald's saying, "Oh, this is my life for the next 50 years." But I mean, it does happen. And like you said, if they do, then they should be getting paid. But when they first come out, what do you say to the people that say that's just because they're gonna like we don't care about that. That's a starter job. They can get better. So when they bitch about their wages and that they're not making enough, there's these people that'll be like, "Well, then just get a different job." And it's like, well, if all these people wanted to get a different job, then that dude that just said that wouldn't be able to go to Burger King and McDonald's and get his fucking Happy Meal or whatever every day or whatever he's eating. So what do you say about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, like, and thinking about, I think that's a great point. And thinking about it live here, yeah, I would want to adjust my point to be that I don't think a starter job should be able to pay you pennies on the dollar. I think that, um, I don't know if 26, I don't know if I agree that 26 ought to be the blanket
Yeah.
minimum wage.
Right, right. I'd be
Uh,
happy with 15, honestly, just federally.
yeah, I think 15 federal at this point in time is needed. I think that, and in some states and jurisdictions, I think higher than that is needed, maybe $20 minimum,
Yeah,
depending on where you are,
California, New York,
metropolitan
Florida,
areas.
like wherever you're.
Ex-
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And I think that at these jobs, because here's the thing: you work at Burger King and or McDonald's. Let's use McDonald's as an example
all
because
right.
I'm
Say
more
Big
upset with
Donald's,
them. Big Donald's, small
Big
Donald's.
Donald's. Okay, Little Donald,
I call him Daddy Donald.
Big Daddy
Uh,
Donald.
yeah.
We
Actually,
won't ask. We won't ask
my
why you call him that, but
my father's name was Donald.
oh, okay. I
But
got
everybody
you.
called him Don.
Your
So,
dad
anyways,
was Ronald McDonald? Maybe.
cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
out. But go ahead.
So the 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 work has a stigma to it where it's easy to appreciate it less. And why is that? It's like the food is has a stereotype of being unhealthy for you. It has a stereotype of being like a quick and dirty meal. I almost think that people are passing on the shame that they feel for using these types of places, having to go to Walmart to buy groceries or going to McDonald's drive through. It's like they're passing on the shame to the people who work there and saying like, well, you ought to make less money because these places are shameful for me to stop and use. It's like it's a McDonald's. It's just a greasy, slimy, quick burger. Uh, but setting all that aside, the time investment for that person to work there, let's say they spend 8 hours that day there, that 8 hours is 8 hours of their life. And it's the same 8 hours of my 8 hours for whatever job I'm doing and whatever job somebody else is doing. So at a bare minimum, you are trading a chunk of your life. You're trading hours for dollars. That's what it is. And that's one of the philosophies I used to tell myself when I was getting through some of these like menial jobs where I was like, just drudgery and working through the day. And I would just tell myself it's just hours for dollars. I just need to put in the time because that's what I'm getting paid for. And so there should be a base value that time is worth. And what that says is that we value people as people for the time they put in. And not only that, but it's not just a 15 or 16, 17-year-old worker who's at McDonald's. It could be somebody who's 40 years old who has fallen on a different time in their life, who maybe lost their job, maybe, like we're talking about AI. What if AI takes a large sector of jobs and these people are unskilled in all the labor that's left? And now they feel like I need to fill the gap with something. So they go and they work at McDonald's and 8 hours of their time, we're saying, hey, this is a starter job. But I don't think that's the right approach for people like that. So I think as a blanket, I think the idea of a starter job it I think it makes sense when you're talking about where you are in the ladder as far as the hierarchy, but it doesn't make sense as far as being able to pay these people a wage where they can't even survive. So yeah, that's kind of the philosophy where I'm landing. That's a long-winded way of saying that I agree with you, and I don't think that a starter job should necessarily be able to say, let's just pay you $12 an hour because this job is for people who still live with their parents and who are like 19 years old and they're just getting their feet wet, because your time is valuable as a person, even if you're unskilled and everything,
Right.
as a person with most of your mental faculties and your ability to be a human and figure things out and learn and work. That's worth quite a bit. I think that's worth minimum wage and at least $15 an hour.
Yeah, and I would say that because of the turnover factor of a lot of these fast food restaurants and these places where people don't really want to work, but they have to kind of work, that managing those places is it can get pretty crazy because you've got like ownership saying, "Hey, we're only going to pay him this," and like how do you like motivate your employees as a manager when the only motivation is going up, right? That's the job. It's going up. That's the motivation of a job. It's like, okay, well, you can get promoted, you could go here and you can go there. But there's not too many people who really care about that if they're working at Burger King or McDonald's, like you said, just trying to get by for a summer or whatever it is. It's like they don't care. So the quality might not be there as far as like what they do because you can get really good workers, but you can get people who just aren't going to care and that's going to show in their work. And then that's going to be a problem too, which could be an argument for some of those other people who say, hey, they don't deserve that amount of money. But in reality, it's just it's kind of just it's like a midway point in somebody's life, not midway, but like that's usually for like college people. Back in our day, it was like college people or people out of or even in high school that would be doing these jobs to get some extra money, which would be different. But now we're getting to a point where there are people that literally have to live off these jobs. It's different if you're 15 or 16, you're living with your parents, and they do have that under 18 minimum wage that is under, which I don't even think people pay that anymore because that was like I think 85% of the federal minimum wage should be like under a little bit under $7. But another interesting factor is that if we were to keep up with CEO bonuses and their wages, the federal minimum wage would then have to be, this is include inflation and CEO bonuses, all that stuff. The federal minimum wage would have to be $63 to keep up with all that. But a little bit different. We're talking about CEOs and stuff, and as much as people hate those guys because there are a lot of them out there that probably don't do a lot but get a lot. But it's really hard to really know like who's who on that aspect of things. What I did want to ask you is that we talked about the poverty by race in this country, and 18.4% of black people are under the poverty line, which is the highest amongst all ethnic groups in the U.S. What do you think the reason for that is? Do you think it has something to do with
The reason why black people are poor,
systemic racism, or maybe not has anything to do with that?
I don't know if I agree a lot with the modern idea of systemic racism. I think that
You don't
if
think it
you
happens still?
I don't know that it happens, but I don't think it happens from I think it happens from individuals. But I don't know that it happens from an actual a system or a rule or a law that you can point to.
I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a law. I mean, they're trying to gut some of the civil rights law, the 1964 Civil Rights Act right now, which wouldn't be a good thing, I don't think. But um, I do think that because there are like definitely um sourced videos out there and things where people will go. I don't know if you've seen this, where they'll go and try to sell their house, and they'll be black people, and the person will say this amount, and then they'll do like the same they'll do like the same house or the same kind of house or something like that with white people, and it'll always be more with white people. And so you do wonder like where this comes from. Like it's like, why would a house be worth less because a black family lived in there, and why would it be worth more because a white family lived in there? I do believe that all of this is still happening. I don't think it's happening at the level it was. I think it was pretty bad at one point, you know. I mean, as soon as you do the when you do the Constitution and you write up the all that stuff, and then you say, what did they originally say that black people were worth? Like 5/8, whatever they were they weren't even a full person. Um and so, there is definitely, as long as you can agree that there's definitely been systematic racism in the past, I think you could agree on that. I understand what you're saying, that you don't think it's really happening now, but I think it's just a little bit more. I think it is still happening, not at the same level, but I think it's more of like under the radar, and it's things that we probably wouldn't know about. Like, not a lot of people would know about what I just said about real estate agents, going in and saying, okay, well, it's actually worth this much if and then for a white couple, all of a sudden it's worth more or something. So I do wonder about that. Uh, I'm just saying that for so many years, the government has kind of put them down. And we've always heard that they're the major reason for most of the crime and stuff. And it's like, well, why do you think that is?
yeah, well, what I wanted to say on that too was that, like, because I'm just responding to where I agree that like the difference between like systemic and systematic, which is a little bit different
Yeah,
in terms of what you're talking about, but
right.
racism coming from that, and like that being the current reason, is the thing that I probably is that I think has the least effect currently. But I think that historically it has had an effect, and I think that that is why we see the numbers we see right now, is because we can follow a path that leads backwards. And so, because I know that I would not have grown up the way that I've grown up. I would be way, let me put it this way. I would be way ahead of where I am now in terms of financial wealth and poverty. And I mean, and I've gotten to a good point right now, but I could have gotten here when I was maybe 20 instead of when I was 40. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
Um, I've gotten here. So I grew up in a poor family, and if my family wasn't poor, then it would have greatly changed the way that the trajectory of my life. Um, and what's the best way for my family not to be poor? Well, it would have been for my mother's mother not to be poor, and then for her mother not, like, so there's a connection. You go back. So when you have that resources backing you, and there's so many psychological things, like if you have a middle class family, at least, then you have the you grow up with a different, it's like your brain develops differently in terms of things like just goal planning, like in financial planning. You can think outside of 2 weeks. When you grow up in poverty, you're always thinking about the next paycheck. You're not thinking about what do you want to do 2 years from now, right? And thinking about what you want to do 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, this is the kind of thinking that puts you through college. This is the reason why you go to college, is because you're thinking about what comes after college. But college takes through 2 to 8 years, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
And
no,
AI is making college irrelevant pretty soon.
pretty soon. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so this is why like poverty is a multifaceted issue with all these other problems. I think because I don't want to sound too controversial, but there's a lot of elements within the Black community where you have this long string of poverty that is a result of this systemic, like this government level stuff that is
They
sort of
wouldn't let them
oppressed.
own land for a long time. They wouldn't let them have bank account, all that stuff. Obviously, you can
Exactly.
trace that back. Yeah.
So climbing out of that, we obviously see cherry picked examples of people within those communities
Bad wording.
who cherry picked.
Just kidding.
I don't know if that. I think that's.
That's more
Oh,
of a
that's like a.
Mexican thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. I said it.
So those examples of people who have climbed out of that, but by and large, so that's why we see like how the common argument if you see like a left and right where the person on the left will say there's a racism and on the right it's common to say there's a cultural issue, and when we're talking about like crime statistics and poverty statistics, but crime is much higher when you live in poverty. Like there's a connection to poverty and crime.
Right.
And so all these things are sort of like multifaceted issues that are outcroppings of growing up and having a family history in poverty. Um so yeah, it's hard to grow out of that. So I do think in some sense there's a cultural issue, but I don't think it's cultural in the sense of like uh it's like a forced culture, right? It's like a government forced culture of poverty that then what's the word I'm looking for, that then demands all these other further like knock-on effects, right? Like crime rates and the way you treat medical care, the way you're able to goal plan for schooling, right? We probably see I know we see different rates of how like the school system within these communities
Right.
operates, and I think that people within these communities probably have a much different outlook as far as like going through college and stuff, because why would you be thinking about where your life's going to be 10 years from now when you don't know if you're going to be even living in the same house the next month because of like you don't have any good ground to stand on. Everything is shaky, right?
Right.
These are like my kind of like scattered thoughts on the issue, but so I can see this line of poverty. But if you ask me about like systemic poverty within the government now, I think that it happens with individuals, but I don't know of like the current system of laws and things that are keeping people down. But that's kind of how I see it, is that that's how it was. And that still leads us to where we are
Do
today.
you think that like we're not going to do this because this would be impossible and we'd have to have AI do it or something? But do you think if we look through all the laws that are in this country right now, and this would be state and federal, which would be thousands and thousands and thousands of different laws, do you not think that we would find laws in there that would hurt one racial group more than another?
It depends on what you mean hurt one racial group. I think that
Well, let's
it
not use
what
the word hurt. Let's just use the word. I don't know what the word I almost want, because right now I'm thinking about our Pete Hegseth, the who I'm not going to give you my opinion on him because it wouldn't be fair. But a lot of what he's doing right now is he's like almost resegregating the army and the military because he's not hiring. He's firing all the black chiefs and the women chiefs, the people up top, and he's hiring, like, he's making sure that they're white. So what would you say about that?
well, based on what you told me, that doesn't sound right.
Okay. I mean, there might be more to it, but what I'm just saying is this
Yeah,
is what I'm reading. And there
yeah.
might be people that come on here and may listen to this and they'll be like, oh, that's just a liberal talking point or whatever it is. The thing is I've seen him. I mean, this is a guy who, I don't know if you heard, just literally quoted a Bible verse that didn't exist, but was in Pulp Fiction. He literally quoted Samuel L. Jackson's
Hey,
Ezekiel.
those are great
They
verses.
are great verses, but he was at a sermon, or he was at like a prayer sermon or something, and he was quoting this, and it sounded like he literally thought it was real. And it's like, dude, I don't get it. But I do think that there are some laws out there that are I think that I think it's still happening. I think black people in general have really crawled their way out. Like they've found a way to be successful, and there's a lot of successful black people out there. Now there's still a lot of different jobs that black people just don't get very high up on. Whether it's because they don't want to do them or they're not interested in them, or it's racism, I don't really know. But I do want to say, I want to know if you agree with this statement. And my statement would be, do you think no matter where you're being born at, whether it's poverty, whether it's in a poverty area or a better area that, has a higher income level, if you are born black in this country, are you because this is gonna trigger some people, I think. But if you're born black, are you in a worse situation than if you're born white, no matter where it is in this country, starting from that area? Or do you think it's not that bad anymore?
It depends on what your family. I Here's my opinion. I think it depends on what your family looks like. Not
Well, they're
literally looks
black
like.
too.
I think what your family financial situation looks like.
Yeah.
So if you're saying you're born black, but you're born into a statistically average black family, then I think that there is an argument to be made there. But I think that if we take two families that have equal financial standing, then I don't think being born black gives you a you know what? I don't even think it gives you a disadvantage. I'm going to be honest.
All right. All right. Hot take from Brandon. All right, let's
Yeah.
get off the race stuff because we're talking about living poor today, and that's all races. We're talking about all races living poor. But I did want to say I do have the top 5 states with the highest poverty rate. And I'm wondering if you could just guess one of them. I'm assuming you could probably guess one of these states before I state them. So go ahead. Tell me a state that you think is in the top 5 and the highest poverty rate in the United States.
Is this like per capita?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers, but it is per capita. I just have the
Okay.
states, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that changes it. Because otherwise, I would have just like chosen the largest state like
Yeah, right,
California.
right. Obviously, yeah.
Boy, and this is the rate at which people are making less than these numbers, like single person less than 15, family 4 less than
Yeah, so
31K.
whoever's making that would go into the percentage of the poverty rate, and these are the states with that highest.
Yeah, I want to choose a state that has like a low cost of living,
Well, I would
and
tell you right now, you could choose a state that has a higher black population because that's going to be up there. It's kind of a like because by telling you earlier that the black people do have the higher poverty rate, that might have been a good clue of like what states you might want to guess.
yeah, this I mean that still doesn't make it very easy. I mean, black people kind of they live sort of everywhere to an extent.
Well, I
Um,
will say this: none of these states, well, except for one of them, is above the Mason-Dixon line.
okay. So my first choice was going to be a state like Louisiana.
That is number 5.
Number 5. Okay.
Yeah. Mississippi is
Okay.
number 1. West Virginia is number 2. New Mexico is number 3. Arkansas is number 4. And Louisiana is number 5.
Louisiana. Okay.
Mississippi has notoriously been low on a lot of things. They're usually last in healthcare. They're usually last in education. Probably not education anymore, but they're usually down there in the and I think people should know that it's not just about the highest poverty rate because all of these things, like because you have a higher poverty rate, there's a correlation between the poorest states and income level and life expectancy and like lower life expectancy, higher infant mortality rate, higher obesity. All of these things are correlated in those poor states, which kind of exponentially makes being poor almost worse, right? Because we're going to get into a little bit later about how, in general, in this country, you're almost like we're going to talk about banks and a little later, but I just want to say that I think it's really fucking crazy that banks penalize you when you're poor and reward you when you're rich. And it's probably just because they're just about making money, right? But banks are
Yeah.
a good thing to look at when you say why are people staying poor? And it's like, well, here's one of the reasons why. Um, but let's talk about the lifespan. Lifespan amongst the rich versus the poor. Americans in the lowest income bracket die nearly 10 to 15 years younger than those in the highest income bracket. The richest 1% of men live an average of 14.6 years longer, and women live 10.1 years longer than the poorest 1%. This gap is widening due to stalling life expectancy among the poor, but it continues to rise with the rich. So, do you think it's fair that people that are poor die younger? Is this an example of survival of the fittest? And I guess fittest in the situation would be money. What are
I
your
don't know if it's
thoughts?
fair. That discrepancy seems pretty wide. I
It's a
don't like that. I
it's
don't like that, 14, 15 years of difference.
That's a big discrepancy, yeah. And
That being
when you
said,
already know that what like the life expectancy is for men is what like I don't know 76, 77, somewhere around there. So it's like, okay, so it's not like it's 77 and then we add the 14.6 and then all these other people are living to um 90 one or something. It's more like, okay, the lower class people are probably dying under 70, and then the higher class men are probably living to like 80 or in the early to mid 80s.
Yeah. So with the exact word usage, like the word fair, because there could be ideas wrapped up in what fairness is. I think that that discrepancy is too large. I wouldn't like to see it that large. I would like to see that our healthcare system works in a way to where that the difference between that is a much smaller difference. I think that it could be fair if we saw the reasons why those discrepancies existed. Like if it's because of lifestyle choices that people have the freedoms to make. But I suspect that that's not it.
No.
That's not
No,
all
I
of it.
think this is going to go back to the healthcare episode, which is on Spotify and YouTube if people want to find it. But it's going to go back to a lot to that because I remember what we talked about that, and I'm like, this is probably a lot to do with healthcare, right? I think.
I think so, but I do also think that, because I've seen the difference in making money at two different levels, is that number one, you have goal setting, which is way different, where you start thinking about where your life's going to be,
Yeah.
but that also affects the impulses that you make for yourself, the impulse purchases and the decisions that you make in terms of like your health. Like if you are smoking cigarettes and drinking a lot, these are often, I mean, I see these as like coping mechanisms a lot of time for people in poverty, because you're not thinking, who cares about your health 2 years from now? Like you just aren't thinking that long.
Yeah.
So I think that if we take a look, and we're talking about poverty today, if we're taking a look at solving the poverty issue first and foremost, then a lot of these knock-on issues end up solving themselves. And especially like this life expectancy difference. And yeah, is it just from medical? Yeah, I don't know that it's as much. I suspect you have an idea that it's more from the differences in medical care. Um, but I think that a lot of these differences also come from the lifestyle choices that people are making, and that's not to put all the responsibility on the individual. I think that I think that being in poverty there's sort of like a disease of a mental blanket of like choices that you aren't
Being in
allowed to make
poverty is a
choices.
good reason to do drugs or drink. That's all you really got to say.
There you
Like
go. It's a
because
good reason, yeah.
that's the big argument with homeless people. They're always like, "Oh, if they just would get off the drugs, they could better their life." And it's like, "Well, do you think that when they were homeless, they were like they maybe some got homeless because they were on drugs and they just like, like maybe they fucking like spent all their life savings or whatever it was, lost their job. But most of these people I'm thinking are starting the drugs because they're homeless. Like it's because what do you do, man? What do you fucking
Yeah.
do? And it's so difficult. But
But also, I think as a group level thing, we have to figure out how to enact change on this level. But I still think that on an individual level, we have to ultimately put the responsibility on the person as well. So it's a dichotomy. It's a bit of a both things, right? So like when I see somebody who's homeless who is doing a lot of drugs,
you just throw a
as an
quarter at their face.
yeah,
Get a
well,
job.
if I want to waste a quarter, sure. Oh,
Oh,
no, I'm
all
just
right.
kidding.
No, it's good.
Uh, no, but when I see them
Clip it.
doing
We're gonna
drugs,
clip it. Okay, go ahead.
on the individual level, I have to say, like, the responsibility is on you to figure out how to not do these drugs. You can't be doing these drugs. On a group level, I think that there's things that we can do that move the needle of where the statistics will land in the future,
But
and that we should be
doesn't that
doing
already
these
go
things.
back? Doesn't that kind of still go back to healthcare though? Because we had talked about like mental health and all that stuff, and that's going to be worse when you're poor, most likely. Um, but also, so if you've got an addiction problem, you can afford to take care of an addiction problem if you're rich, right? Like if you've got enough money. But if you're poor, can't really. And do you think like I do think that like we talked about this before. There's gambling now. There's gambling everywhere, and trust me, it's being taken care. It's being taken advantage of. Like it's big time. Like there's already people going down for insider betting, which is happening not only with the citizens of the United States, but with the government of the United States because they're betting on the Iran war right now on Polymarket, which is so fucked up to me. But So they're betting on like what's going to happen, and then at the same time, there's people who are in the U.S. sending their kids over to Iran, while these people, these motherfuckers, are betting on their fucking lives or their battles or whatever it is. Not really betting on their lives, but it's just kind of fucked up to me. But what I see is that they really do go after some of these people who are, I feel like what they do, they go after some of the smaller people. Like, and they don't care. Nobody gives a shit if some poor sap spends his $25,000 a year earnings or whatever on one gambling. Nobody gives a shit except for him and his family, obviously. But so I do wonder if I do feel like there is somewhere where like there are companies or places or the government or whatever that are kind of using the poor as guinea pigs for certain things. Now, we could talk about this all the time about like the Tuskegee experiment or MK Ultra or something like that, which is kind of a different situation, but we should probably write that shit down because that's interesting to talk about. But
Yeah.
that's just the government experimenting on people that they shouldn't be experimenting on, and they're not going to take somebody who's of note and who has a lot of money. Who are they going to take, Brandon? They're going to take somebody who nobody's going to fucking know and who's poor and doesn't have a lot of money. So I don't know. It just like I get angry and I get upset when people say that people like either deserve to be poor because of their choices they made or like the drug thing or their drinking. And look, man, if people don't think these rich bastards are putting cocaine up their nose or doing whatever crazy drug, maybe it's ketamine, because now they can get that shit. We can't get that shit, but they can talk to a doctor like Michael Jackson's doctor or Matthew Perry's doctor or whoever. I think Matthew Perry actually got it from somebody else, so I don't want to get his doctor in trouble. But there are people out there that are rich enough and have more influence to where they
But
can go to these people.
you did name people who died as a result of it, though. So they were victims
Well,
of what they
yeah.
were doing.
Well,
Yeah.
they were, but it and but it's like, yeah, I mean they were and they paid the ultimate price for that. And that's what I'm saying is it's like should like because they're going to have a greater influence. A doctor like we were talking about, a doctor doesn't give a shit about you or me. But if a celebrity walks in the door, it's a different story, right? So you can't really combat that. I don't know how to combat that.
Yeah, rules for thee and not for me is what we're seeing up on that level. I think,
The gap
yeah,
too. The
I
gap is getting
agree.
way bigger between the richer and the poor, and I don't like that either. That's just going to
Yeah.
make things worse.
I think the reason why I'm also harping on though like the personal responsibility aspect though is because it is, and not that you were arguing the exact opposite of that. I
Right,
think that
right.
you were making different points. But it's because if I want to help one of those people specifically, I don't think like let's say I'm talking to the person directly. It's me and them and I'm talking and they're the ones that are homeless and doing drugs. I don't think that the answers I give them about how to get out of the situation is to wait for systemic change. Is to wait for a change in how things. I think that the only way for that person to get out at that point in time, and the best advice I can give them, is to take all the responsibility for where their life is at, and to figure out, and these people do need help. But if I'm willing to help them, then I have to say, with my help, you have to take all the responsibility. You still have to try to get to the place where you're willing to even entertain the idea of taking responsibility for your life, because it's really hard to make forward progress if you're waiting on somebody else to fix your life for you. And that doesn't mean that the result, it's a bit like the thing with mental illness. It's a common saying, but I just love it, where like people who are dealing with depression, anxiety, or whatever else you might be dealing with, that your mental illness might not be your fault, but it doesn't mean that it's not your responsibility to fix it. And I think that that is how a lot of these things are approached on an individual basis, or how I approach it, where I'm saying like, look, these things might not be your fault, and we do need to try to enact change, but also the best the best course of action you have right now is to take all the responsibility for figuring out how to get yourself out of it. And I think that it'd be good to find a way to have better messaging for that. At the same time, have programs and things in place that allow people to climb out of these situations. And part of the problems with these programs is we're just talking about like, hey, let's build another homeless shelter. But what we really end up doing is we end up building just like a giant a sort of pseudo concentration camp for everybody to be packed together and kind of cause problems in groups. And these places are often dens of mental illness and places where,
Where other people
people
can
that
get drugs, right? Like, it almost makes it
exactly.
easier for them to just stay down. Yeah.
That's right. And what we really need is like, I know the resources for this are tough, but what I would love to see is an individualized program that is designed to take an individual and give them the not only the medical care but the psychological care. And when I say psychological care, I don't mean just solving their depression. I mean like something even more closer to life coaching, something where it's like
I could do that job.
establishing that you're worth something. Like you are a human being who has intrinsic worth in just being a human being. Like starting from that, and then giving these people the confidence to say you can not only do we think that you should have a better life, but you should deserve it. You should want it for yourself. And here's the reasons why. So get programs, develop programs that give people a self confidence, a sense of practice in looking at long term goals and actually achieving them. So programs that'll take people from year one to year five. Now this is a very resource heavy thing, but I think that by and large, if we found a way to do this, it would be a huge improvement.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, but like you said, I think you would have a lot of backlash because it'd be taking taxpayer money and it'd be using this. Otherwise, like you'd have to depend on something else. Now, I just will say a couple things, like, and you kind of already mentioned it, like by saying that, like, this is what we need to help these people. I will say that I agree with you that people should take their own responsibility with things, but I will reiterate that it is harder for these people to get help. Um, and I will also say that there's a lot of rich people who don't take responsibility. So I want people to know that it goes both ways. Um, but I do agree with you. I mean, and there's has to be something, and there's no perfect fix. You're always going to have this situation, which sucks. And but I think that the biggest thing that I want people to realize, especially those people who are really anti-homeless, really against homeless people, is it's like you just don't know. Any moment, any time of your life, it could happen to you. You just don't know. Anything could do it. And so it happens. I've got a friend right now. I've got a friend who's got 6 kids, and he's worked at he's managed car washes for like the past few years. Then he just fucked up his back and he's bedridden now with his back. And it's like, and he doesn't know if that's going to be a lifelong thing or if what's going to happen. So you just don't fucking know like when something's going to happen. And it really just kind of sucks. And I kind of hate when people really get down on people for certain things. So I just want to say that.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't want to be overly callous about.
And yeah, and I
Yeah,
don't think you're being overly callous. I just wanted to make sure we're kind of getting both points in here. So
yeah.
everybody, the left, the right, the center, come on over, watch us. We're here, talk to us, do all kinds of things. Send us letters. Do people do that? I don't think people do that anymore. Um, let's talk about credit reports because credit reports, I have some beef with certain things with credit reports, and one of the beefs I have is, first of all, there was a bill that was sent through in 2023 or 2024 when Joe Biden was in office that was going to take medical debt out of credit reports. Then there was a group of people that were suing the administration because they didn't want them to do that. President Trump came in, and the people that were defending it became people that were advocating for it. So, guess what? Medical debt is back in the report. Medical debt is reported. I think that's fucked up. I don't think it should be included in the credit report. Also, student loans. Student loans are in your credit report. I don't agree with that either. Um, I think that those are two things that there was one point in time, especially with student loans, where it was just expected for you to get a student loan and go to college. And I know there might be some people now who can't really fathom that because they are pushing more towards like different types of specialty jobs and things, which I have no problem with. I mean, not everybody should have to go to college. I agree with that. But the student loan thing is that, and the one thing that really gets me on the student loan is most of your student loan cannot be taken away with like a Chapter 11 bankruptcy or something. Whereas everything else, if you get a credit card and you fuck up and you don't pay it, that can be you can find a way to get that, you still got to pay down some debt, but you can find a way to pay much less debt
Yeah.
with a bankruptcy or something. And then the other big qualm I have with credit reports, and this is kind of in landlords, there will be some landlords that do this, but I think everybody that rents, I think every landlord should be mandatory to put it on their credit, put to report that to the People's Credit Bureau. Even if they don't, even if it's all not on time. But there are a lot of people where rent is not included anywhere. You can be a person who rents for 10 fucking years and you're paying on time every month and it's nowhere. Nobody has anything, and all you've got is that landlord saying, "Hey, this is his payment history or whatever." But what do you
Yeah.
think about credit reports? Somebody needs to reboot them.
I'm thinking about it. You know,
Yeah,
you pose a question to me. I gotta
I
think.
got you.
What are my actual
Yeah, I've
thoughts?
got the breakdown. You don't, so it is only fair that you got to take some time. It's like I've got it all right here. So
Well, the purpose of the credit report is for a company to decide if they want to, for somebody to decide if they want to loan you money, essentially, right?
yeah,
And as that company, so if I'm going to loan somebody money, and I'm thinking about it from the principle, from that perspective, just to get the devil's advocate view of like, what do I deserve to see about that person's payment history? And what should I be allowed to see that can inform me in making my decision if I want to allow them to borrow money. And I can see the case for medical and student loans not being on there. I think maybe we could make a sliding scale, sort of like a poverty line, where um, if you're below the poverty line, those things aren't allowed to be shown in your report, and if you're above it, maybe those things are, or we have some sort of agreement where, probably a higher limit even than that, if I'm being honest. But say like if you make over $50,000, then student loans and medical bills can show in your report because now you're making enough money presumably to where you should be able to make payments on those kind of debts. And if you're not, that can speak more to your character. But if you're making less than that kind of money, I think you have to do triage. You have to do prioritization of the bills, and medical debts and student loan debts are just not core. They're not essential
right.
debts to
That
your
is
day to
the
day,
essential
being
reason
alive.
why everybody pays their rent on time is because they need a fucking place to live, right?
Yeah.
So,
And the thing is that these people who are requesting your report, they're already getting information on your income level anyway. And so they can use that to help make those types of determinations. And they do. So I think that would be a fair middle ground, is to have some sort of cutoff where like people below a certain line are not having these items shown on their reports.
yeah, and I don't know how long they've been doing this, but they have been doing this for a little while now, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, but car insurance companies now look into your credit report to determine what your rate will be. Do you think that's fair, or do you think it should only be based on um your driving record and your past car insurance? Because they're not just looking. I don't really have a problem with them looking at other car insurance like that you've paid and like being like, oh, maybe he was late a few times or whatever. But if they're looking at your total credit report and they're saying, oh, this guy has student loans and he can't pay him, so now his car insurance is going to be higher, which don't you think is just making everything worse? Isn't that just piling it on more?
Yeah. I don't know if I like that. I mean, like, another devil's advocate position would be that the car insurers are able to look at statistics and say that people who are not paying, who have lots of debts, are more likely to make other bad decisions, or that what they see as bad decisions, right? Like habits like driving faster, and just reckless driving decisions. And
Yeah, why
I
don't you
don't, I
get a
don't,
little bit of the money back? Like, how come you can? We've talked about it, and we know. I think if people have watched this, the few people that do, know your stance on car insurance. I remember you saying something about like, or maybe just insurance in general, where it's like I would like to put this money away rather than giving it to them, and then that would just be easier. Like it would just be a better thing because a lot of people do just pay, and then they never get. It's just that's all it is. It's just a payment even though
yeah.
so why not like if you've got a great record for like every year or two or something, why not like it should go down, right? But it keeps going up for a lot of people. Like or but shouldn't like I don't know, what do you do here? Like are there any insurance companies out there that give you money back for having a good driving record? I don't think there is.
There's companies that provide programs where, if you are a good driver, you get a small amount of savings on like your monthly bill. You might get $5 or $10 off. I was with a company a while back where there was like a tracker I like put in the glove compartment of my car,
Was that
and what
Allstate?
it did, it might have been, I don't remember,
I think a
but I
lot of
remember
them are
I
doing it now, but I remember that specific Allstate commercial
yeah,
talking
and
about
it
that.
tracks my driving. It sees if I'm speeding or if I'm stopping fast or all these things, and it kind of says like, okay, you fall into the category of a certain type of drivers that we're not expecting to see accidents from, and so we're giving you
You
like a
stopped street
refund for
racing
doing.
like years ago.
Yeah,
Way back in the
f-
day
f-
from your Power
I've
Wheels. You were
yeah,
only Power Wheel street racing back in the day.
Power, yeah.
Yeah.
Matchbox was across the pond.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't yeah, so there's this. I kind of agree with what you're saying, but also I understand that the drivers who don't get into accidents, the profits from those people are what is used to be able to pay out the accidents for the people
Yeah.
who do get into accidents. Um but my ultimate position on that is that I don't think insurance should be required. And I understand the requirement for cars that are financed because the person financing the car needs some assurance that if you get into
Yeah.
an accident, you'll that the
If
car
you
can
own it
be.
outright, you're saying you shouldn't have to worry about it. And then
That's exactly right. Yeah. And if I would not have insurance on any of my cars unless I only do because it's required. So that would be the way
well, would
that
anybody really? I mean, would anybody have insurance on their car if it wasn't required? I think most people would just say, "Fuck, that's great. That's a big savings." Like all of a sudden,
yeah,
you might be throwing people out of poverty if you don't make them pay insurance. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
that's right. Yeah.
it is crazy. But
Now, what's the concern there? That a person who's in poverty is going to get into an accident and not be able to pay anything? You're going to sue them, and then in court they're going to say, "All right, I lost the lawsuit. Now what?" And the judge is going to say, "Well, you owe them, $20,000," and that person's going to say, well, "Okay, we'll take it out of nothing because I have no assets, nothing. All I have is debt." And then the person that they ran into now is screwed because they're not able to even squeeze
well,
money
they could
from the
probably get a
rock.
judgment, right? So they could probably get it to where they could take it out of their checks or whatever if they're working or not.
They're working under the table.
But yeah, but what I was also going to say is if they have
Yeah.
student loans, they can't take two things out at once. So if they have student loans in the government, U.S. government takes 15% of your paycheck. No credit. If you owe money to a credit card company or something, they're coming after you. They ain't going to get nothing because you know who's going to collect first. It's going to be the government. They're not going to give. Let them collect first. They're not going to let the private companies collect first. So it is very
Yeah.
interesting.
Here's what I'm going to say, okay? If you have to have insurance, then I think insurance companies there should be some sort of like some laws or system enacted so insurance companies have capped profits, and the money that they make over that has to directly go into has to adjust everybody's premiums for the next quarter or for the next year. Um, to equalize it so that way people aren't paying like exorbitant amounts of money for so that way a CEO can make billions of dollars at the top of
It's a
United
shady
Health
business,
that's how.
and
Yeah,
and
it's a shady business. Yeah.
And I've known people who used to have State Farm who got away from State Farm, and I've always had State Farm, and they actually helped me out like a couple of times way back in the day, and they were a really good company. But ever since they started bringing on all these celebrities and all these football stars and their commercials, and it's like, and now I feel like their shit's just going through the roof, and it's like this. It's a weird business, and it's like you don't need celebrities to sell your fucking insurance. People need insurance. If it's a fucking requirement, why are you paying millions of dollars to these celebrities to be on here and that's going to raise your rate? I mean, it's so funny with commercials to me sometimes because people love commercials and they're like, "Yeah, I have that brand, that brand, that brand." And it's like, "Well, you're already paying too much because they have a commercial for it." This is why Jiffy, we talked about Jiffy before, not Jiffy Lube, but Jiffy Muffin Mix, why they've never advertised a commercial and they've always stayed at a low price, right? And everybody knows, most people know what Jiffy is because it's just been word of mouth for like the past 80 years or whatever, however long they've been around. And it's just kind of funny how like people put a lot of time. I know people love it's like if you've got a company and it's paying however the astronomical price of money they have to pay for like a 30-second ad in the Super Bowl, and then now you're like, and then like a month or two later your bill goes up in that company and you're wondering why. That's fucking on you, dude. You need to fucking realize that these companies, you got to figure it out, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think it's about that time for
It's time for our fake sponsors.
we are fake sponsored by the comma. Because there's a big difference between a bunch of crazy ass fuckers and a bunch of crazy ass fuckers. We are also fake sponsored by Big Dick Slinging Zombies. This summer, don't beat a dead cock twice. It's the world premiere of Gorge Sombrero's Dong of the Dead. Don't let a dead dong slap you on the way out. Brandon, you looking forward to Dong of the Dead? You told me that was one of your favorite movies you were looking forward to.
Is that a sequel by any chance?
It is. It is a sequel. Yeah. All right, it's time to play a game called Blind Rankings. And this is where we give each other like a category, and then we've got to rank some things, but we don't know what all the things are going to be. So it's going to be interesting, and we've got to place them into a slot between 1 and 5. And once we place them into that slot and we go on to the next, they are permanently in that slot and you can't move them. So, Brandon, are you ready to play Blind Rankings?
Let's go. I'm ready.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and start? I'll let you start.
All right. So this is we're doing 1 through 5.
Yeah, and I'm gonna write them down here so that way I know which ones are going in.
All right. And how are we doing? Where 1 is the top,
Yeah.
or 5 is the
1 is the top.
One's the top.
Yeah. Number
1
1
is the top, and 5 is the end.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm gonna give you the order. Well, I don't want to.
Yeah. Don't.
Let's just jump into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the category of this one is Poor Life Essentials.
Poor Life Essentials. Okay.
Poor Life Essentials. Okay.
Right. Oreos.
Category. So 1 through 5.
That one?
Okay.
That one? Okay.
It's not. No, that's not.
That'd
That's
be
not
number 1
essential.
for me. Yeah.
It's not an essential. You can.
Yeah.
Go
I'd take Oreos over a house.
All right.
No, just kidding.
Number one. Everybody knows this one. This has got to be a very, very common one. Okay, it's not going to surprise you, but I'm wondering where you're going to put it. Okay, number 1 is ramen noodles.
5. I'm immediately fucking myself, but.
Oh. Okay, so ramen noodles is.
I
it's
hate
the worst
ramen
essential.
noodles. I hate ramen noodles. Get them out of here, man.
Okay, not essential.
And they're so bad for you too if you keep eating them. By the way,
so it's not essential for a poor life, living poor, no ramen.
You know what? Hold on, because I am getting a little personal with this, and I did forget that this one specifically. You didn't make personal. You just said that it's a poor. Okay. Let me put it at 3.
3. So why'd you change that again?
Because you're saying that it's in general. And really, I was acting on my personal belief of my personal view of ramen, hating ramen. But I do know what you mean. Like, essentially, for any poor person, ramen is cheap and it probably is essential, especially for college people. I know that a lot of college people eat that shit. But I'm just going to say, don't eat it every fucking day because it's high in sodium and it's really fucking bad for you.
Okay. All right. On that note, the next one here is a friend who lets you crash on their couch.
A friend that lets you crash on their couch.
Yeah. A friend that lets you crash on their couch. Where's this land? In the Poor Life Essentials blind ranking.
4.
4. Okay. Right behind ramen.
Yeah. Right behind ramen.
I like that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is powdered milk.
God. It is essential, though.
It has a long shelf life.
Such a bad taste. Awful taste. I'm going to say this, man. I feel really bad for people if that's the only milk they've all drank their whole entire life. Like, they have no fucking clue what they're missing.
I think I know where you're going to put this, but you tell me.
I don't know, because that's rough, because I feel like milk is still, I mean, I know we've got inflation and milk and eggs and things like that have gone up, but they've always been essentials because they've been cheap. And I don't really think milk is that crazy as far as price. So I'm going to put it at 5.
All right, 5. I thought you were going to put it. I had a feeling. I thought you were leaning that way. All right, the next one is, let's see if you're going to screw yourself.
Yeah,
you got 3, 4, and 5.
I probably did screw myself because now I have to have 1 and 2 here.
It's 1 and 2. The next one is a month of prepaid cell phone service.
Well, that should be 5, but I'll put it at 2.
At 2? Okay.
Yeah. And I will say...
Why would you put it at 5?
Huh?
Why would you put it at 5?
I would put it at 5 because there's a program that stems from an Obama era where if you're low income, you get free cell phones coverage. So that would essentially be so anybody can take it. Now, a homeless person might have trouble taking this because you do have to have a home address. But yeah, that's why I would put it at 5.
I wasn't sure if that program was still going. I knew that existed before, but
it is actually still going. It survived Doge somehow. I don't know why.
Wow. Okay. I think you're going to be happy with this. With this last one. This last one is number 1.
Nudity?
A random $20 you forgot in your pocket.
Oh, yeah, that's a number one, man.
Yeah.
That is a number one.
Poor life essentials.
I like that because
There it is.
because that any poor person, that like the crazy thing is if a rich person found that in their pocket, they're like they might just throw it in the trash. I don't know. But if a poor
Yeah.
person finds that, it is like a rich person doing like $1 million deal or something. Like almost in
Yeah.
that sense.
So let me say this. I think number 2, a month of prepaid cell phone service, I think that this classifies as the phone that you're talking about. Because that phone it's paid, even though you don't have to pay for it. It's paid, and you get the next month of it,
Yeah.
right? Presumably.
Yeah.
So I think that is
I'm
essential.
not,
So
you know, when I'm looking at all this, I'm not upset with my choices where I ranked everything.
yeah, I think you did good.
I think it's
I
actually
was
not that bad. Yeah. All right. Well,
I thought
I
ramen was
like that
gonna.
you stuck with the theme of our show today. Unfortunately, I did not stick with the theme of our show. So I have your celebrity girlfriend. All right. So 1 through
Oh,
5.
okay,
So here we go. We're gonna find
okay,
out who Brandon likes, okay? And we're gonna and do
okay,
this. And I don't think this one's pretty light. I think this one's gonna be not so hard
okay,
for you, okay? But just be careful because I'm sneaky with things. All right.
okay.
So your celebrity girlfriend. Number 1 is is it Zendaya or Zendaya? I never know how to say it. I think it's Zendaya, but I don't know for sure.
Zendaya.
Okay. So Zendaya is the first one.
I think she's nice.
She'd love to hear that
Yeah,
when
I
she
wouldn't
watches
put her.
this. She
Okay, I'm
watches.
gonna start off. I'm gonna start off with a 3 because I don't know what you got for me. Because on the right, she could be number 1 on a certain list of people, or
Yeah,
she'd be number
definitely. If
5.
I just said like a bunch of,
Yeah.
if I said like Caitlyn Jenner next one or something, you'd be like, oh. All right. Well, don't worry. I didn't go too crazy. Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter and her music videos are just full of sexual innuendo. So you know you're going to be having a good time. She's younger though, so she can be a little more limber.
I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go 4 with her.
Zendaya's above Sabrina.
I think that I mean Sabrina, she's nice, but I think she has a lot going on, and I don't think that.
I think what you're saying is Zendaya's got a little bit more class.
Yeah, something like
And I
that.
think that's
Yeah,
what you would prefer. I think you're gonna
yeah.
you're not gonna be like if we're in like Vegas ever, which I don't think that's gonna happen. You're not gonna be like you're not gonna go for a
Like
trashy hooker. You're gonna go
like
for the
Zendaya,
nice, classy hooker.
Zendaya and Tom Holland have been together like for a while now, and I don't think Sabrina has the same kind of track record with being able to
That's
maintain
true.
a
That's
long-term
true.
relationship. Yeah,
That's a good thought. I don't think Sabrina's even with anybody right now. I don't know for sure, but
yeah.
definitely Zendaya and Tom have had quite a relationship. And of course in this scenario, Tom Holland is not around. It's make believe, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
you've got Zendaya at 3 and Sabrina Carpenter at 4. What about Sabrina the Carpenter? Just some girl I know. No, I'm just kidding. You don't know her. All right. Number 3 is another girl I always forget how to say her name. Is it Rihanna or Rihanna or bro? You gotta disrespect Rihanna like that.
She just doesn't do it for me.
Doesn't do it for you, huh?
No, she doesn't do it
All
for me.
right. Okay.
That's how I see her.
All
I
right.
don't know though exactly.
All right. Um. Oh, I got another good one. Zoe Saldana, or I think they actually say Saldana from Avatar. Um, she also plays. I
She's in
can't think of her
Guardians of the
character. Yeah,
Galaxy.
she's in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh man, you know what? I think I would have put her lower. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, I would have put her.
You're in the same predicament as me because you just went 3, 4, 5, and now you got 1, 2
Well,
left.
okay, she's definitely 2. But if I could go back and not do this blind, then my rankings already might be
Right.
different.
Well, that's the whole point. That's what makes this
She's
game
number
fun.
2.
I think.
Okay, she's number 2.
She's number 2.
That's fine.
All right. So that means
Oh boy,
that
I don't even know.
Brandon's celebrity girlfriend is number 1 is Roseanne Barr. Hey man, I'm sure you can have some deep conversations with her. She's funny. You can talk about the show and stuff.
You did this on purpose.
It'll be a good time. I told you
You
I
did
was
this to
shady.
me.
I told you. I warned you. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
you did this on purpose.
All right.
You got me. I can't believe I left number 1 open. I was thinking, you're gonna throw out like on a day
Yeah.
or something. No.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I gave you Roseanne Barr. Hey, man, don't knock it. You don't know. As long as she's not taking her Ambien and doing crazy tweets, I'm sure she'll be fine.
This isn't a ranking of who I want to be friends with, though. So,
All right. All right.
so your points.
Well, obviously, this is all just moot, anyways. It's not like anything's
All
going to
right.
happen. All right.
All
This
right.
is all
All
for
right.
clicks. And
That's all for
Roseanne
clicks.
Barr
Okay.
gets the clicks, baby. All right. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to stay on track. I'm actually glad that I stayed on track with or not on track, but on topic with the topic of the today's pod.
Yeah, why don't you give yourself a big fat pat on the back?
Well, no, the reason why I'm glad, no, this is why I'm saying that, because I want to say the other half of this, is because I was worried that I was going to clash with lists that you had made.
Yeah, right.
And so now I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
and so
mine are not anything to do with this, with our topic.
But I'm enjoying your list, and I'm looking forward to the next ones too.
I'm enjoying getting a girlfriend of my own and then double dating with you and Roseanne in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, that should be fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to get 5 seats.
What?
One for each of us, and
right. And then a seat for the
two.
leftovers, I think is what you mean. Yeah.
Couple seats for the leftovers.
Yeah.
Things that feel like luxury when you're broke.
Things that feel like luxury when you're broke. Okay, hit me.
All right. Okay.
What's the first one?
Here we go. All right. I think this is going to be good. Okay, the first one is filling your gas tank all the way up, all the way to the tippy top.
4.
4?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I've only done that once in my life. So I don't even know. And it didn't make me feel...
And how did it feel?
It made me feel all right, but I was going on a trip too. So it was kind of like it had to be done.
Okay. All right, so the next one I have for you. Getting a large drink and fries with your fast food meal.
5.
Large drink. And this is because you famously don't eat fast food, right?
Well, yeah, and like I said, I might be doing this wrong because I'm doing it more personal. But
that's fine. I mean, do it however you want.
But
it's just your list.
Yeah, like honestly, yeah, I don't drink soda anymore. And even if it was water or something else, I don't drink anything. The only thing I drink is water and iced tea, so I wouldn't really give a shit. Fries are good. I'll tell you what, usually fries are going to be better than the main meal at most of fast food places. But I don't need
fries.
I don't need that many.
I just had Burger King today. Okay. I like this. This is fun though. This is I like that you're filling up the end of it first.
Now I'm trying something different, but I might be screwing myself. I might You know?
All right, the next one up is brand name groceries. Brand name. You're buying brand name. How much of a luxury is that? Are you getting Oreos or are you getting cream in cream betweens?
Well, that's a movie that's on my list. I do hate this because this one should be 5 for me. Although I don't know what the next 2 are going to be. I really don't care. Now, there are certain things where you do need brand name, but there are a lot of things that the off-brand will work. Like, if you don't get Kellogg's Pop-Tarts and you get an off-brand, I have never found an off-brand. And it seems weird to me. Like, it seems like it'd be pretty easy to make a Pop-Tart. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, I've never found a Pop-Tart that measures up to Kellogg's. But I eat a lot of off-brand cereal, too. And you could make a case for with poor people where we had talked about once before how I like Fig Bars over Fig Newtons, and Fig Newtons are way more expensive. But I've also had the situation where Frosted Mini Wheats, I'll eat a lot of Frosted Mini Wheats, but I've eaten, like, I used to eat I think it's Market Pantry brand that was Target's brand, and now I eat the Great Value brand that's Walmart's brand. And I'll tell you what, if I get like Kellogg's, I don't like it because I've eaten this brand so much that I just don't like some of, so that happens too. But all right.
Fortified with niacin. Yeah. Okay, I get that. All right, branding groceries. There are some. I did say groceries specifically, but there are some items like toilet paper where.
That's true too. Yeah, you don't want like
it depends.
Good enough, right? Like here's some good enough
it
toilet paper. It's just recycled sandpaper. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes with ice cream, cheaper ice creams have a lot more. They harden up a lot more because they don't have as much milk content. They use more.
They have the opposite problem.
Really?
Where they kind of don't harden up. They actually get like a little shaky. Not shaky, but you know what I mean? Like shake type. Like a little runny and watery.
Runny?
Yeah.
Well, that might be a freezer problem.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Might be. Well, everything else was frozen though, so I just thought maybe it was the ice cream.
All right. You ready for the next one?
I don't like my strategy, by the way. It's the same strategy that I did last time, and we're gonna have to work out our strategies on this. But go ahead.
You got 3, 4, and 5 filled up. So now you only got 1 and 2 slots, and I don't know how I'm feeling about 1 and 2 slots for you. But let's just see.
That's all right. You got celebrity girlfriend Roseanne. I deserve it.
I got Roseanne at number 1.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do any different. Okay. The next one is getting a subscription to a streaming service instead of making a new email and getting a free trial. So it feels like luxury. you're getting a subscription to a streaming
Well, I'm
service. You're
gonna go
paying for it.
to, and I'm probably gonna screw myself because this is another one that I don't care about. I'm actually really good at getting free trials, and if you know what you're doing, I probably shouldn't have this out there, but whatever. If you know what you're doing, you can get free trials on a lot of different things multiple times. And
But doesn't it feel like a luxury to just say, yeah, I'll get the pro, you just pay for it on your main email, your main
there's
login?
something about navigating the system to get the free trials. It's almost like couponing for maybe for people who do coupons. Like
Man.
there's actually a satisfaction of finding a way to get this shit for free a lot, I think.
So we had to define what luxury even is to you then at this
Yeah,
point.
I don't have much luxury.
Yeah.
I don't really
Okay.
think much is luxury for me.
All right. That's your number two slot. Your number one.
Bugles are luxury. I love bugles.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me some bugles and I'll be happy.
Well, I don't know. But Bugles is a name brand.
this
Are
is
you
true.
getting,
This is
are you
true.
getting little cones? Or
No.
are you buying Bugles?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Conan bugles. Yeah, I'm not getting those. Yeah.
All right. Your last one, which is going to be number one, running out of a toiletry and having a backup already on hand.
That's a pretty satisfying feeling.
Yeah, so you run out of toilet paper, you got another one. You run out of toothpaste, you already got your second toothpaste.
When I used to drink coffee, I don't drink coffee anymore, but coffee filters were always the backup. And that may sound funny to people, but if you take when you take your coffee filter out of the coffee after it's made a thing of coffee, and you look at the filter after you dump it, it doesn't look much different than when you wipe your ass with it. Just so people know.
All right, that was things that feel like a luxury when you're broke.
All right, are you ready for your next one? Mine are
Yeah,
really just looks based for some reason.
Okay, I see where you're at.
Yeah, like I'm on the surface here. But don't worry, this one isn't specifically about you. You just get to decide which one of the we're going to rank 5 guys of who you think would be considered God's gift to women. So these are going to be celebrities, actors.
I know you're going to throw a curveball at 5 again. And that's okay. I can't wait for it.
All right. Well, play it safe. You could always just you
I'm
could
playing
always
it.
do that. You could always do number 1 like right away.
No, I do have a strategy for this.
And I think
going
that
into
the few people that I'm going to tell you right now, I could see them being number 1. So the first one I'm going to tell you is Brad Pitt. Where do you put Brad Pitt as what people would think as God's gift to women?
Number 1.
All right. Brad Pitt is number 1. All right. Number 2 is Jesus Christ. No, I'm just kidding. Number 2, I didn't add Jesus into any of these.
He's God's gift to everyone.
Right, exactly.
Not just to women.
George Clooney.
George Clooney, God's gift to women. He's gonna.
I like your strategy right now. I think you're doing well. I think by filling up that one spot with Brad Pitt, I don't think a lot of people would argue. Maybe, or maybe I'm just trolling.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if I leave 1 or 5 empty, it feels worse than if I leave like a 2 or a 4 or a 3 empty at the end, because then I can sort of justify, well, like if I had said, hey, Roseanne's number 2, so be it. That I could have swallowed that pill, but Roseanne number 1, it really made me take a look.
You're gonna have to
my
swallow
strategy.
a few pills.
Okay. Boy, George Clooney. I'm gonna say George Clooney is, how old is he now? He's like 70?
Probably in his 60s. I don't think he's quite 70 yet. I mean, him and Brad Pitt might be close to the same age. I don't know. George Clooney, what? Like he was in like he didn't really get big until like in the movie and stuff until till ER, right? But he was in like Roseanne. He was in some episodes of the first season of Roseanne. He was in Golden Girls. He was in a couple of different sitcoms in the 80s that he kind of made his rounds on. So
George Clooney, I'm gonna go number 4.
George Clooney is number 4.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Here's one I think a lot of girls like. Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper, he was recently in the news about like plastic surgery concerns quite a bit. And
I didn't see him. I just heard everybody talking about how Jim Carrey wasn't Jim Carrey.
Yeah, well, the same thing happened to Bradley Cooper. He showed up to some event and his face just looked kind of had a weird puffiness and sort of shiny. And
so you think
he's speculating?
You think that kind of hurt his credibility?
I think that 4 years ago he was number 1.
He was the sexiest man alive one of the years, wasn't he? He had to have been, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put Bradley Cooper at number 3 though.
All right.
Because he's still young, he's still got prime left. He's still got some good years. I just think the only reason why George Clooney was 4 is because he's reached an elderly age, and not that he's not a good-looking, suave guy who's probably nice to his women. It's just that he's past his prime. and how many years left are you going to have with them to sort of spend
Well, I mean, you've
any
got
amount of your
people who are
life?
like 20 or 30 dating people who are like 70 or 80. You've got Al Pacino's girlfriend or Robert De Niro's girlfriend or so. And I would think that for most women, George Clooney would be much of a better get than Pacino or De Niro. I mean, they're great actors, but let's face it, they're not, they're getting up there and we can only,
Bradley Cooper.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Number 3.
Fucker in law. All right. Let's, okay. So the fourth one, oh, he's a hunk.
Piece of work.
He's a hunk.
Piece of work. Okay.
Elon Musk.
You're going to end this with like Andrew Tate, aren't you? And I
No
kind
Andrew
of can see
Tate.
that
I
coming.
100% guarantee you Andrew. I wanted to do like kind of like famous people, celebrities, and I don't think Andrew Tate is at any of these people's level as far at any time. So no, I'm not
Elon
going to
Musk.
give you Andrew Tate.
I think that Elon Musk is interesting, and overall, I'm glad that he is somebody that we have. And I don't know if that's controversial for some people, but I'm glad that he's around because I think I think he's pushed a lot of technologies
I
forward.
didn't know you got hyenas recently.
Yeah. They're yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole thing.
2 or 5.
Elon
Musk.
I'm gonna go 5. I'm gonna go 5 with Elon Musk because I don't think he's necessarily a gift to women. I think that he's probably not a great conversationalist.
You don't
I don't
think that
think he's
they
a lot
would
of
enjoy like a nice Sig Heil from Elon Musk?
yeah, or even a Roman salute, if he
Right.
wanted to do that too, which
Right.
is fine.
Right.
Like I said, I think he's a very smart guy. I think he's an excellent entrepreneur, and I think there's a lot of things about him that make him very interesting. But having any sort of a relationship with him where you're having a conversation that requires empathy or one-on-one connection, I just don't see him being good at any of those things. So I think 5 for him.
All right. So number 1 is Brad Pitt. Number 3 is Bradley Cooper. Number 4 is George Clooney. Number 5 is Elon Musk. And that means you put number 2, God's gift to women. The man with the second God's gift to women is Bill Cosby.
There it
So
is.
good
You heard it
job.
here. You heard it
You
here.
heard it here, folks. Just don't just make sure you pour your own drinks. All right. What do you got for me? Here's number 3.
And you had the gall on the last list to try to call me racist.
I
Just
know.
remember that.
Hey, I didn't. I just said people might think you are because you were talking earlier about,
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
got it.
saying that. I'm just trying to see, I'm just trying to protect you. All right, what do you got for me? You got a third
Okay.
one?
I do have a
Okay.
third one, yeah. This one is going to be very similar to the first one. The first one I had Poor Life Essentials, which included some food items. This one is more centered on food items. The topic of this one is struggle meals. Struggle meals, okay? Blind ranking 1 to 5.
What do you mean
And
by
I'm going to give
struggle
you
meals?
I mean meals when you are struggling, when you don't have any money, maybe you're raiding the pantry.
Okay, so
What
which one are
is
these are the best of the struggle meals?
what do you want? How do you look at it? Because a meal that sucks might also be like sort of epic in its own way, right? It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself and start naming off what I have here, but there's some things that
I
are
would
just
like to rank them
iconic
by like things that I would enjoy. So number 1
that
would
you would
be the
actually
most
enjoy.
enjoyable, yeah. If
Okay.
that's okay.
Okay. So I'm going to start with another familiar one. This is the only familiar one you're going to see show back up on the list. Just that's a little preview. But I am going to start with it because it's such a popular thing
Ramen?
amongst poverty. Is ramen number 1 struggle meal?
Okay, so
Where do you put
if
that
I'm
as a
going
struggle
by
meal?
my taste and what I think would be the best meal that I could eat as a struggle meal or I guess basically what we're saying is what's the best cheap meal. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say ramen at 5. I know I'm fucking myself again by
it's
doing this.
crazy, and I think that's controversial. I think most people
They
in
really like
poverty
it.
would not. I think ramen is a common number
Okay,
1. Like
but
it's the
looking
goat. It's the goat of
right, but I don't know your other 4. But looking at if you just look at your list and you don't tell me your other 4 right now, can you honestly say that somebody would choose ramen out of the rest that you have as their number 1 tasting, like, from how I'm grading them, like, they would say it's the
I
number
don't
1
know.
tasting struggle meal?
I don't, I don't know.
Okay. All
I
right.
don't know.
All right.
I think if you had given this list to me and you said ramen, I would have put that at number 1 because it's such an iconic like I know that if there's a ramen packet in the cupboard, I know what it's going to taste like. I know how to make it,
Yeah, I
and I
just
know
don't like
that
the taste of ramen, man. I'm just not a big ramen
yeah.
fan.
Yeah, I know you're going with taste. And I also know that if I have like 33 cents in my pocket, I can afford 1 packet of ramen. It's like I can go to
Yeah,
the
I
store and
mean,
I
I
need a
do
packet of ramen.
understand. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I don't want to talk you out of it. You put it at 5. This is your list.
But
This
it's
is your list.
33 cents, and that's just one serving.
That's pretty good. I mean, one serving of ramen, especially if you make it soupy style,
Right.
that's a whole bowl of, you can get through
Now,
with that.
I want to say a meal that I ate a lot when I was a kid that produced a lot of food that was really cheap, but I'm not sure if I want to say it now because I don't know if you have it on the list.
Yeah, hold on to it because
So I'll wait.
we're gonna see.
Okay.
All right. The next one is PB&J, but all you have is either the PB or the J.
Why would you say PB&J, but all you have is one or the other? Why don't you just say peanut butter sandwich or jelly sandwich? Okay.
No, because you want it to be.
Let me tell you, a jelly sandwich is gross to me. I don't even really like jelly that much.
But you don't have to rank it on that. You can rank it on either the jelly or just the peanut butter. But people know that when you're poor, when you're in poverty, and you're struggling.
I'm doing the same thing again because I don't like this either. I mean, if I had both,
you don't like it either,
then it would be great. Like I feel like it'd be higher. You're struggling.
You don't have money. You don't have money for food. You're raiding the pantry. You find this. How is it? Is this a 4?
Yeah.
You're like, man, this is a 4.
It's a 4.
Is that what? I feel like that's what you're leaning at.
It's a 4, just because. I don't know, man. First of all, if you have just a peanut butter sandwich, you know what you need? You need to spend more money now, or you need to make sure you have milk in your fridge, because how else are you getting that fucking, like, what else are you doing?
Glass of water.
I mean, water's good, which is probably what I would now, because the only time I ever have milk is if I have cereal. But
all right.
But yeah.
All right, here we go with the next one. Right. You got 5 and 4 already filled up. The next one is elbow noodles.
Okay, so just that by themselves? Can I add butter? I mean, people usually have butter.
You don't have butter.
Oh.
But you find a box of elbow noodles. You have a pan.
Yeah, but water, usually you've got something else. If you've got a box of elbow noodles, I'm going to assume you've got something that you can add in there to doctor it up.
I'll give you seasonings.
Hey, well, we'll just put it at 3. We'll just put it at 3.
No butter, no milk. Actually, you know what? No, take it back. I'll give you butter. We'll say
if you give me butter, I'll put it at 2.
Butter noodles, as we used to call it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they would be much better on not elbow. What's the noodles that I'm thinking of? God, what are they called? They're the little wavy ones. Those kind of noodles are better, buttered noodles, but.
All right. We're going to call it elbow noodles and butter. Right. So you can make butter noodles.
So I got 1 and 3 open.
Yeah, you got 1 and 3 open.
Okay.
All right. This is going to be tricky because I don't know how you're going to feel about either of these options.
Yeah.
Depends on what your history looks like compared to mine.
Yeah.
I think that when I'm making these, it's easy for me to have a lens of my upbringing and what I enjoyed when I was like, what do we got? And these are things that I would
also heard stories, and I'm not saying you do this, but I've also heard stories about some of the crazy stuff that your mom has eaten.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, wow, that's crazy. So I don't know if you had to do that as a kid, She was like, here, this is what you're going to eat.
This is not on the list, but a really huge meal is noodles and tomato juice. It's such a huge staple. Like, it's at the point where I would still eat
that's just like
today.
Half a goulash. It's just you just don't have the burger.
Goulash, yeah, but it's got to be tomato juice. It's not. I'm not talking about tomato sauce, not spaghetti sauce. It's tomato juice in the noodles.
Yeah,
it's got to be It's got to say tomato.
Isn't that
juice.
Gross when you think about it, though? Look at a tomato and you're like, how are they getting all this juice? And they're just smashing the tomato, obviously.
Just squeeze them.
Yeah, squeeze them. Yeah. All right.
Just squeeze them till they juice out.
All right, what you got?
All right, 1 and 3 are open. The next one is cereal with water instead of milk. You got cereal.
I will say this.
You don't have milk.
You know what? It really depends on the cereal, though, because if that's the case, I'm not going to have it with water. There's a lot of cereal that I would just eat by itself.
Okay.
So
have you ever had cereal with water, though, instead of milk because you didn't have milk?
No, I would never do that. I've known people that are allergic to dairy and they have to eat it that way. And I feel so bad because they'll never know how much better it is with milk, which might be a good thing.
They can't just have gluten-free or not.
No, I knew somebody who was he was pretty badly allergic to milk, and it was like, oh wow, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I guess an allergy is different from lactose intolerance.
Right.
You're talking about
it was an actual allergy. So I just it's like I don't know if his throat closed up or what, but it just sucked because he couldn't have milk.
I get that. Yeah, because even lactose-free milk, I think it has at least trace amounts of lactose in it.
For me to get a pinpoint on this of whether it's 1 or 3, I would have to, I don't know if you want to, but I'd have to kind of know, I don't know if you want to throw out a kind of cereal because it would make a difference. Because if you're going to say like cornflakes, I'd be like, well, I don't know, cornflakes I can't. I mean, you could just eat them, by themselves. Frosted Flakes, I could fucking eat by the handful, and I don't even need milk. Golden Grams, Honeycomb. There's Cocoa Puffs. There's so many cereals that I could eat without
Wait a
milk.
minute. I'm gonna say, okay, you're rating your pantry, you're looking in there, or
Okay.
you're on top of the fridge.
All right.
I'm gonna give you 3 cereals that you find.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna give you Rice Krispies.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you Cocoa Puffs, and then I'm going to give you Smacks.
All right. Well, although I think I loved Smacks when I was a kid, but now I think they're one of the grossest thing ever. Cocoa Puffs, I just recently started eating again, and I forgot how great they were. And I want to say a small funny story. I was eating Cocoa Puffs a couple nights, and I was thinking about Reese's Puffs, and I'm like, I've never had Reese's Puffs. I'm like, why don't they make a cereal that's both Reese's and Cocoa Puffs? And then I looked up Reese's Puffs because all this time I literally thought Reese's Puffs was just all peanut butter. I didn't know they had chocolate in there too. And I was like, wait, there's chocolate in there? I'm going to get some Reese's Puffs. So it's just kind of a funny story where I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
They have it in there, yeah.
This is number one.
Number 1, all right, because you're eating the Cocoa Puffs, because you're foregoing water and you're just snacking on
Right,
the
and you
cocoa.
also said Rice Krispies, and I mean, I could get technical and be like, well, I don't know, Brandon, how much is a fucking bag of marshmallows? There's a lot of people that might just have an old bag of marshmallows in their fridge, and if you've got rice or in their pantry, and if you've got Rice Krispies and marshmallows, you probably need some butter too. But it's pretty much you can make treats then.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. All right, so what's
All
number
right,
3?
number 3, you're raiding your fridge. You are broke, no money. You got no prospects for food coming in. No food coming in the next day. You're hungry. You're eating a syrup sandwich. Number 3. Number 3 struggle meal, syrup sandwich.
And that was one of the meals I was going to say that I ate a lot when I was a kid. Did you eat a lot of those when you were a kid?
I did have
That was
quite a few
all
syrup
of our
sandwiches.
parents, like all the parents of all of us
Now,
and our cousins must have already, like, I'm wondering if our grandmother at one point served all of them syrup sandwiches.
it's because once a bottle of pancake syrup makes its way into your fridge, it it doesn't all get used up very
Right.
fast. Like it takes a while to get used up. Now, I will say this, oftentimes the bread, because it was too wasteful for you to make a real sandwich, so it would often be one slice of bread, syrup on half, and then fold the bread in half.
Yeah.
And now you got this like half folded bread with syrup that you've drizzled
Fold the
inside
bread.
it.
I like that.
And it wasn't that bad.
It
Yeah,
wasn't. I would say
wasn't.
that now, if I had to eat that, I mean, if I had to, I had to, but I feel like it'd be gross now. I don't know if you feel like that way now too, but now I'd be like, oh, that's gross. But
Yeah.
the one that I really did like that you didn't mention that I had a lot when I was a kid and that I'll even make now, and maybe you probably had it, is macaroni and cheese and tuna fish.
No, I did not eat that.
I love that shit. Some people, and you could even, it'd probably be a little bit more expensive because hot dogs are a little bit more expensive, but it'd be probably about the same way as making like macaroni and cheese and then putting hot dogs in it because I'm sure you've seen people do that. Yeah, I love that shit, man.
As a bonus, I want to add, I want to say, where would you put cream of wheat on here?
I fucking hate cream of wheat.
Cream of wheat.
Yeah, I hate that
Okay.
shit.
The reason why I bring that up is because that seems like such a common food that you find when you go to a food pantry.
Yeah.
It seems like there's always a box of cream of wheat that they give you.
Right.
And
it's usually
it
from a
wasn't my
widow
favorite.
because their husband or wife just died. It's always old people that ate cream of wheat when I was younger, and I still
And
don't
I'll
like
tell
it.
you what. I'll tell you what my beef with cream of wheat is that it's not that it doesn't taste okay if you make it right. It's that it's so difficult to make it right. It's so difficult to make it not either clumpy or accidentally too sweet or too many different ways.
Mine
I
is,
think
yeah, I think whenever I made it, it was always too soupy, and that was like way bad.
yeah, and that's not good either. Yeah.
Because I mean, I'll eat oatmeal, but I used to be a big oatmeal guy. But I'll still eat oatmeal. I like oatmeal, but I can't have it runny. It's got to be more thick. But there's a
Thick.
zone,
But
right?
you don't want
You
it.
got to have
But
it
you don't
right
want
in
clumps
that.
either. You don't like when you get a big clump.
Right, you got to have it in that
either.
zone, and
Yeah.
it can be tough sometimes.
I agree. And oatmeal, by the way, is something I used to eat quite a bit of as well.
Yeah.
And in a pinch, you can use pancake syrup as well as a sweetener if you don't have any sugar in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's your last one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's time for your rankings of the hottest cartoon character in your opinion.
Boy.
Are you ready?
Are these all over 18?
Yes. Yeah.
You're gonna give me like
I'm pretty sure they're over 18.
Like a Kim Possible, and I have to like figure out what I'm.
No.
Okay.
No. These are
How I'm gonna rank
all characters that most people would know. Well, I think everybody would know actually all of these characters. But my first one is Wilma Flintstone.
Wilma Flintstone.
Yeah, she wasn't bad. She wasn't bad looking.
4.
4?
Yeah.
Or did you say whore? That whore.
4.
That whore is at 4.
4 blank more doors is my answer.
All right.
Yeah.
So Wilma's at 4. All right. Marge Simpson. Homie. I can't do it that good.
Simpson 3.
You know what? That blue hair doesn't really do it for me, and it's way too much.
It's not, but she is loyal and she's a family.
Yeah, she's very
woman.
loyal. She's
Yeah.
kind of like Homer's like conscience in a way. Like she's like the one that kind of, settles everything down.
No, the reason why I put the number 4, by the way, was because she just seemed to. I have a vague memory of the Flintstones actually, but I feel like she's too ritzy or like suburban housewife-ish, and there's something about that I.
In the original, her voice was kind of like a little bit snobby-ish, I think, in a way.
Like a Fran Drescher, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right.
So that's where she went.
So you got Marge at 3. You've got Wilma Flintstone at 4. Lois Griffin.
Lois Griffin, I'm going to put at. This is tough. I got 1 and 5 I'm going to leave open. Lois, I'm going to go. Boy, but I don't know what cartoon wives. Is this cartoon wives? Or
just cartoon characters? Just cartoon characters. I mean, I don't. Yeah, because there's the last 2 I don't think are married.
All right, she's good. Lois is going number 2.
All right, Lois Griffin. Velma Dinkley from Scooby-Doo.
Jinkies. You're gonna give me You're gonna give me a weird.
Yeah, I think you're on to me now. So just play it smart and do what you think you should do. Or am I tricking you? Or am I gaslighting you? What am I doing?
All right, I'm putting Velma number 1.
All right, that's a good job.
Only because of modern interpretations as well. Like
I think there's a lot of people who've had a crush on Velma.
Yeah.
And granted, even though would you say that? I mean, more people because Velma is kind of the nerdy one, right? But there's still a lot of people still
but
like
her. I think the original Velma was not that attractive. But I think that
it's become more attractive.
As she's been reinterpreted, there's like this whole this librarian kind of
and the girl who played her in the live action movies in the early 2000s is a really good looking actress. I forgot her name, but she started off on Freaks and Geeks, and she's.
All right, I'm not upset. I'll put her number 1. That's fine.
I think you did good because number 5 is Granny from Looney Tunes.
All right.
So you got me.
This is good. I did it.
Yeah. This is not a bad list. Yeah. Velma at 1, Lois at 2, Marge, Wilma at 4, Granny at 5. I mean, if that's the 5 they had, they'd be like, that'd be good.
If this was a not blind list, it could still look the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably it would be good. So. All right, well, that's blind rankings. That was good. Let's go back to living poor. Nobody wants to, but let's go back to it.
Go back.
And I want to talk a little bit about, because earlier you had talked about, we talked about the poverty line, and you talked about how there's people that are making a little bit over the poverty line. And then this is where you get fucked because you're in like no man's land when you're making a little bit more and you still can't make ends meet. And I've experienced this before. A long time ago when I was at a job, I got a raise. I got like $1.50 raise, which was, pretty good. But all of a sudden, I couldn't get, I was in like a community health program, and I made too much for that all of a sudden. So now I had to get my own insurance. I made too much after that then all of a sudden I was out of the SNAP card thing. And so all of a sudden things start adding up, and you're like, whoa, this $1.50 raise is actually costing me more money. And I think that does happen to a lot of people. There's a position that the government puts you in to where we were talking about those low income type jobs where it's actually beneficial to you to not get a raise, to actually stay at that spot. And that's kind of tough. So what do we do with that?
We need progressive cutoffs for these things, and not firm cutoffs.
Yeah.
This was a problem. I think there was a time when food sort of maybe worked this way. I don't think it is anymore, as we mentioned earlier, but where there was a time where it was like you get $1 or like you're getting food benefits and you get a 1 day a week job and now you get 0 benefits or something like that, where it like makes you not want to work at all. But I think they do a little bit of a better job with that now. But with the medical coverage options, there needs to be something progressive. Now, I understand that on the coverage side, you might not be able to find kind of progressive way to be like, how much coverage do you get? But maybe the contribution you make to it should be progressive. Maybe now that you're working, or maybe you've made $1 an hour raise, maybe they want you to chip in, $10 a month or something
Yeah.
towards your plan.
Yeah.
And maybe that progressively gets more and more until you get to the point where you're completely not eligible for free medical care. So that's what I think is the first solution I would reach for.
Yeah, because it does get tough, and it's crazy that it's that way. It's bad. It's sad that it's that way because it does kind of keep you from getting up. Like the government's rewarding you in a way, being like, well, just stay here and we'll give you all this help because if you go up just a little bit, fuck you, we're not helping you, and then it's even worse off for you. So, um, I also want to talk about if this bothers you at all, because we are two people who have never had children, at least not that we know of, but we've never had children. Um, and this, it kind of, to take a phrase from Family Guy and Peter Griffin, it kind of grinds my gears a little bit that um that people will bitch about tax money going to help. Like we talked about a universal healthcare system where people just don't want to do that because they're like, oh, I don't want my money going for that. But they don't like their money going for that or SNAP or whatever it is. Yet we're single people. So number one, we're single men. And if we're in the working field, we're going to be one of the highest taxed individuals. Um, Not only that, because we don't have children, like when you have children, the government helps you a lot. And so I wonder, do you ever get into these things? Because that's what I would tell people who bitch about having their taxes taken out. I'd be like, well, okay, but now when I work, and if I just claim myself, I'm not getting I'm not getting the same tax breaks as a parent are or a married couple is. So, what do you think of that? Obviously, I'm saying that, like, I don't really think you should change it to a point. There are some numbers that I'm going to tell you in a little bit to where you might say, oh, maybe we should change it a little bit. I'm just saying that, like, I understand they want people to have kids. They're pro birth, they're all that stuff. And that's why they're doing that. But you shouldn't force it out of people either, because there are people that abuse that system, right? There are people who are in poverty but they're making money off their kids because of what the government gives them. So what's your thought on all that?
I think that on the surface that I have had those thoughts before, but in reality, if you asked me if I'd be willing to switch positions with any of those people, I would not.
Right. Yeah.
So I do have to say it's a bit like, yeah, there's people who abuse it where it's like, I'm going to have 8 kids and have everything paid for me through all the government programs and the earned income credit options and stuff, things like that. You have kids, but also do I want to switch? Do I wish I was them? And I just don't. And so that kind of, so using that logic, I'm thinking, I don't know if they're actually getting too many benefits or incentives or not. I think that I do wonder if we're incentivizing, certain living situations that are, like people, like, single parent households with a bunch of kids versus having 2 parents, and somebody trying to work a job. And it's like, I almost feel like that is penalized
Yeah.
versus being a single parent and having kids and then saying, well, okay, well now let's support you with all the full weight of the system. And the answer isn't to not support those people and penalize them, but it's to have some sort of progressive or gradient, spectrum of support for the people that do have 2 parents in a household that are struggling as well. Yeah, I don't know if we do too much because, like I said, I wouldn't change places with these people. Like I don't want to.
understand that you would change places, but like you said before about people taking responsibility for their own actions, shouldn't people who have kids have enough money to support those kids? And I understand the government's perspective. You should step in if somebody isn't able to take care of their kids. You should be able to help them or maybe take them away, unfortunately, in a sad situation like that where you foster them out or whatever you do. But there's a responsibility for having kids. And I do think there's a lot of people who how many people really think about how much it's going to cost to have a kid before they have sex? People don't think about that shit. They just have sex, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people have unprotected sex or whatever it is. And then they have these unintended consequences. I mean, do you really think the percentage of kids in this country, like anybody who's ever been born, what is the percentage that it was planned? It's got to be pretty fucking low, right? We're
It's
mostly
low,
all
yeah.
accidents. And sorry for people out there who that might offend. I hope it doesn't offend anyone because whatever. Because it's the majority of the people that have been born, I think, have been all accident. So I think I am a little curious on your response to that because you do have this thing about autonomy and responsibility with oneself. So why not apply that to people who have kids? Like they have a responsibility to take care of those kids. Why does the government have to? And I'm not saying the government should. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Why does the government have to step in and help them? Because you can
It's
get
not
this.
that they
Sorry, I just want to say really quick. You can get
yeah.
this up to the limit is 200,000 for one person and 400,000 for couples. So if you make $400,000 people, you're still getting the child's tax credit, which is a maximum of 2,200, and there's no limit. So you can just keep popping out kids. There's no limit to that.
Yeah. It's not that I think I don't know about the word have to, like why should we have to?
Right.
But I think that I would rather live in a system that can find it, especially to be intellectually congruent and consistent with the idea of, because I don't know where I exactly land on abortion either, but I'm not necessarily like the most pro, like pro abortion. I'm not maximally that. I'm not all the way against it in all the cases. I'm not necessarily extreme on either end of that,
Yeah.
but I do think that the canceling of life as just like a general blasé approach to just saying I'm not ready to have a child.
Right.
It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
I think that there's a careful middle ground that I would trudge that I would like to walk that probably leans more towards having a child than not. And if I'm going to be consistent with that, then I think we should also live within a system that can find a way as a community to try to support people who do have those decisions. That being said, I think you do make great points with people who have accidents, who are just out there being careless. And it's like, here I am. I haven't been as careless. And it's like, why do I have to be financially strained by a system that's decided that now we got to support all these people who make careless choices, have children? So that being said, yeah, I don't want to incentivize people I don't want to incentivize career childbirth. Like
Yeah.
that shouldn't be a career choice.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to make a bunch of children and that's my
Like some
career.
would say that by them incentivizing it, they are actually lowering abortion rates, right? Because then they're encouraging the people to have the baby, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that it is. And let's get this straight out in the. I think that both of you and I agree. Like when it comes to like helping kids, especially kids that are in poverty, because we talked earlier about how many kids are in poverty and stuff like that. Um, that should be a no-brainer. Free lunches at school should be a no fucking brainer for me. It for anybody. I really do get upset when people are like, "Why do they have to have free lunch? It's the parents' responsibility." And it's like, oh, I don't know. I get really upset with those people that kind of say that kind of shit. But those to me are people who just don't believe, they're just selfish people, I feel like. They just don't believe that, they believe everybody should go and earn everything themselves. And I do agree with some of that. I think we both do, to where you should be responsible for a lot of your stuff. But when you're a kid, you're a kid. You're not supposed to have those responsibilities. You're not supposed to know the toughness of the life or the world at a young age. And so I just want to make sure people realize that I think both of us are for a lot of these things. I can sit here and we can both sit there and say that I think it is a little unfair that we are kind of fucked on that kind of shit. We're not going to get the same kind of help. Men more, especially if you're a single man. Let's say you're just a single man. Women have had it rough in this country, but they're going to get more help than a single man would. A single woman, especially a single woman with kids, which is that should be agreeable. And then obviously, if it's only one parent, they should get help, even though I think a lot of that's supposed to be done with child support. That's more of like a thing where if, somebody left and they should be paying the child support or whatever it is. But then you have issues with going after them. And then what happens? They owe the state, or the state and the parent, hundreds of thousands of dollars by the end of it all. And then what do? They finally catch him or something. And then they put him in prison. And then who's paying for all that? It is fucked up, but how do it's a system that's really just can't ever be perfect, and I don't know how you fix it. I mean, I don't have any answers for these. You might. Do you have AI?
Yeah.
Is AI the answer?
Yeah. AI is the answer.
Okay. Excellent.
Done.
All right.
Fixed. Yeah.
All right. So, any difference between, let's talk about the difference between living poor and poorly living. because there is a difference, right? Like you're living poor because you don't have enough money, but you're poorly living not doesn't necessarily coordinate with money. It's just you not living to the standards that maybe you should be. So would you agree with that? Like,
Yeah, and there's almost three ways to say that because when you said poorly living, in my head I was thinking of living poorly,
right.
and that's almost a third category,
Yeah.
which is like that's besides how much money you make, you can just be constantly making bad decisions about how you're living your life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but I don't that's not quite what you meant though, was it?
No, but I mean, but I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, it's like I think that yeah, I think that you can have situations where, and this could be, I mean, a millionaire or a billionaire could be poorly living or living poorly, like you said. I mean, I guess those would probably be like the same thing. I'm not one like kind of close together, but they could be doing that just by like maybe they're not taking care of themselves, or they've got all this money, like you said, like but they're also they're eating like the worst shit like every day, or they're making just bad decisions about their body or their life or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a different scenario where you could have some fat old rich people who aren't making the best decisions, and they probably wouldn't make it those 15 years that they would live longer than the poorest people, right? Because they're just not making the
That's
best
right. Yeah.
decisions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just a few more things we can talk about. I think we kind of already talked about this. I mean, poor versus rich, that gap is getting bigger. There can be one to say about what do you think about the trickle down economics, or the fact of like how people say that if you give tax cuts to the higher class, that will trickle down and they will pay their employees more? Do you think that that's true? Because I always find it, with what I've found in the past and what I've read, that that's not true. They just get richer and they don't really trickle it down to the poor.
I think trickle down, I don't know. I think trickle down makes sense more to me if you actually turn the entire triangle upside down
Mm.
and then you give money. And this is kind
I
of
thought you were
what
going to make a
stimulus looks
bathroom
like.
reference with the trickle
Yeah.
down. Every once in a while,
I
it
mean,
trickles down.
this is what a stimulus looks like, right? Like, and I don't like the idea of just printing money for stimulus checks to the people
Right.
because that there's an inflation thing that comes on the back end
Yeah.
and then everybody kind of suffers. But I do agree that there is an economic principle where like if you take the triangle, turn it upside down, all the people that are the poorest living at the bottom, if the money somehow starts with them, it will trickle down to the economy because they will spend it. They spend it on the businesses. Eventually, the CEOs can still get rich off that. It will trickle to the CEOs. I promise you that.
Right.
If you turn that around and you give that money to the CEOs, and I don't think it's going to trickle down to all the people at the bottom. It just doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So that's not the exact heart of all of what trickle down economics, I
Right.
don't think
Right.
is
It's
supposed
a
to be.
basic understanding, yeah, of like what like a basic kind of structure of what it is.
But I do think that there is like I think that it's the trickling. I think we got the ends mixed up with how the trickling really actually works in practice. So um
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I think
I
about it.
like that. In a way, and it goes both way. It's not like you need poor and rich people, right? Like you can't have one without the other. It's like it's the yin and yang. It's the yin and yang of things. It's like you have to have that. It's like good and evil. Like you have to have good and evil in the world. You can't just have the whole world be all good or the whole world be all evil. Like they don't survive without one or the other. And but in a way, the poor do subsidize a lot of things for the rich, but then the rich obviously own a lot of businesses and companies, and you need them both. Like you can't just get rid of one group. Like even though that there are higher elites that may want to get rid of one group, and there are low people who want to get rid of the elites. There's everything with that, but um I think that's big. And I also want to say that being poor is not just about not having money. It's an inconvenience too. There's a lot of things that involve, like what people don't realize when you're poor is, okay, so now you have a shitty rundown house like I do, and I'm going to tell people a story. I don't even know if I've told you this because I've probably been waiting for a podcast, but I've got a leak that's been leaking on and off, especially when it rains or if the snow's been melting, but I don't think there's any snow on my roof anymore. Um, and it's right over the toilet. And it's a
Yeah.
really bad spot. In fact, it's not directly over it, which would be kind of better in a way to where at least I wouldn't have I could put a bucket on top of it, or I could just let it drip into the toilet. It's actually on the rim part. And it's really funny because it's been so bad where if you've got to like go in there and take a number two, you got like it's like a phone in one hand and an umbrella in the other, and you're sitting there and taking a dump with an umbrella. And obviously, it does need to get to now that it's getting better. We can get up on top of the roof and we can get to it. But in the winter, you can't really do shit about it. I mean, you can kind of like do
What?
stuff on the
So
inside, but
you don't divert it at the ceiling at all,
no,
so it doesn't drip
I
on.
mean, my stepdad is he's got a builder's license. Obviously, he's got issues with his
No, no.
back, but
But I mean, just like I had a drip in the ceiling, and I took a piece of plastic
you
and
like
tacked it
divert it
up.
somewhere else.
Yeah, just so
No, I
it
mean,
just
honestly, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I ask him what's the best to do. But he might.
I mean, I know that what I'm talking about is a jerry-rigged
Right, and
solution,
I agree with you.
but I
Like, you
just
could
mean,
do something. Like,
yeah,
you could figure out a way.
drip it into the
But
bathtub or
there is
something. Yeah.
also pieces of the roof falling too, or the ceiling. So because it got so soggy there, and it's an old place, and I don't even know if there's any like insulation left in that area. So there's definitely some stuff that we're gonna have to do.
So are you ever using the bathroom like in the night and you're just not thinking about it and you get a drip like right on your
No, because I
forehead?
usually
I'm not
do a
sure.
lot of. I do most of my pooping like in the first half of my day. I don't really do it after. Like, so then I'm just peeing, and I don't really care because then it's just like a race with the leak. You know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
I'm just trying to give that as an example to people that there's much more things than pour. Like a rich person could be like they don't have to worry about like any of this shit. They can get this
Yeah.
shit fixed like right away, or they've got multiple bathrooms or whatever it is. I'm just trying to let people know that being poor is more than just not having money. There's other things that you have to worry about. It's a huge inconvenience. And you see these people who go to their 9 to 5 jobs, but what you don't see is them, holding an umbrella over their head to try to poop, or like only having hot water on certain days because there's something wrong with your water, so you got to take showers on certain day. Like, or your water freezes in the wintertime. A lot houses, people who are rich really don't have to worry about a lot of that. I mean, it happens, but not as much as like people who are in mobile homes or things like that. So I just want to
Yeah.
make sure people know that it's not always just about money. That's just the root of it. And then everything else falls also. So I didn't know if you had any examples of that, or just, or if you just want to nod your head in agreement, or either way.
Examples of things that
Just
like
that's not of being poor, but not about the inconvenience of it. Not about just not having money, but the inconvenience of it all. Like if you had any stories of that, because
I think so.
you've got to do
But
things.
ultimately these are things that money can fix.
Right, but you
But it's
don't
like
have it. Yeah. Yeah.
you don't
I'm
have
just
it.
saying it'd be
Yeah.
things that people might not think about that don't know it. They've always had enough money to sustain, and so they just think, oh, these people just need more money. But what they don't understand is there's more than just not having the money. It's all these
Yeah, certainly
inconveniences that causes.
things happening in your house is really one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Another big one is your car.
Yeah.
So many times in my life, I'm riding around on brakes. Something in my wheels is grinding. I don't know what it
Right.
is. I don't have the
Probably
money to
the
fix
person
it.
you ran over, but
Yeah, that could be
Yeah.
it, but I don't think so. I do enough of that where it's usually fine. And so I don't, and you don't know what it is. So many times something weird is happening with your car that you know is probably unsafe, but you've trained yourself to ignore it because you just don't have the money to figure out what's wrong with it. And that's the end of it. And so now you're driving around in a car with wheels that are grinding for like 3 months until finally something happens and you're forced to confront it and call in like every last favor you have with everybody you know to try to get, and you're cashing in chips that you don't want to have to cash in at that moment, but you're having to. So I've had this happen quite often. Things with the house breaking. I've had a house, I've had power go out. I've had water not work. I've had water freeze and pipes
Yeah.
burst. Things that I've been charged for. I've had the heat go out, and you go and you think you're praying that it's just the pilot on your heater, and it turns out it's not. It's something else. And so now you're calling around, and somebody says, and you got family that are saying they'll help you, and sure they will, and you hope they do, but it's an inconvenience, and they never kind of really make it out right when they say they can. And so now you don't know whether to follow up with another phone call because now you're bugging somebody else to take time out of their day to drive all the way over to your
Right.
house just to see why your furnace isn't kicking on. And then, and you finally break down to the point where you call somebody professional, they stop over and they say, hey, you have a big crack in your furnace and you have to replace the entire
Right,
thing,
right.
and it's like six,
It almost
seven
sounds like you're
thousand
talking
dollars.
about from personal experience,
I
Brandon.
don't I don't know who I'm talking about,
Okay.
but if I was talking about myself, it's just one example of something that is really annoying. Now you're asking, what do I do? Do I take on debt? Do I not fix it? Do I try to fix it myself and just breathe in, take flip a coin whether or not I'm going to die from carbon monoxide tonight? Is my house going to blow up? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like I said, it's a
And
similar
that's
thing
just
with
going to
the
add more to the
water.
mental health, right? Because now you have to worry about all this stuff. So now your mental health's getting worse, which is going to make your physical health get worse. You don't have the proper health care because you're poor in the first place. It's just all building up. And I think that's what people need to realize is it's
Yeah.
just more than
All
just,
the while,
yeah.
yeah, all the while you're watching Doctor, what are you watching? Dr. Oz, you got some TV show on, and somebody says, the stress is the real killer. And you're thinking, why are you you're telling me
Right,
this?
right, right.
So you're telling me I'm being killed by all the things around me can't afford to
Right,
fix.
right. It's a fucked up world, man, and we're just living in it. We talked about living week to week. That's kind of the thought process of a lot of poor people. Like you said, it's really hard to make future plans when you don't even know what you're going to be doing the next week, whether you're going to be able to pay a bill or not. We talked a little bit, and I guess what we've just talked about is kind of like some of the repercussions of being poor. Credit scores bad, so then that just piles up, which means you can't get other things. You can't get a new vehicle. You talked about vehicle maintenance and all that. That's a lot of reasons why you see poor people out there with just like, what do they call them? Like lemons, basically, on the road because that's all they can afford, and then they're just riding around with PLPD or whatever, what's that stand for? Personal liability insurance or something like that. Um, but yeah, and so they can't get new vehicles because to own a house, you have to have a good credit report or a good credit score, I'm sorry, to get a loan, obviously. Unless you've got money, you've got to get a loan. This is how poor people do things. And, same with a nice car, with a lot of different things. So
Yeah,
it's just really tough. Um,
it is.
so yeah, living poor is a lot of work. It's not just about, I mean, it's mainly about money, but obviously there's all these other things that happen because you don't have the money to fix things. Are there any final words you want to say about living poor or poorly living?
I don't know. You have any hot tips? Free, make emails for free trials on streaming accounts.
Yeah. Yeah. I could make some
Um,
YouTube videos for people on how to do that. But then they might catch me and then they'll lock me out of everything.
Amazon Prime has like a half rate deal you can get
Yeah,
on.
we should say that. We should say that like there are companies out there which a lot of poor people would probably say to boycott, but it's kind of like a catch 22 because you can't boycott Walmart if you're poor. You got to fucking shop at Walmart if you're poor. Um, and
Yeah. I don't think a lot. Yeah.
Walmart Plus will give you
Sorry.
half off if you have and that'll get your uh groceries delivered to you. They'll give you half off. Amazon Prime gives you half off. These are all people who are under the poverty line. You just have to prove that you have like Medicaid or you have a SNAP card. So there are companies out there that will help you. I guess that you could do that. Definitely look at any of your local resources and government. And they're definitely look into whatever you can do to get help. But yeah, I mean, do you have any?
Yeah, and if you're willing, I mean, like, stick your neck out for there's plenty of pantries. Churches are very common for
Yeah,
this. Places that will help you out with food. I think that if you're poor, you don't have most places. I don't know. I'm speaking maybe for too much on my knowledge of my local area,
right.
but in general, my experience is that you don't have to actually go hungry
Yeah,
as long as you're willing to reach out to the services
yeah,
that provide food. Food is one of the easier things in my experience to get.
right.
It's harder to get money to cover your bills, your utilities, or and things like that. But you don't really have to go hungry. The quality of the food you're getting might not be that great. It's not going to be name brand. Um, but you can reach out for help. So don't be afraid to do that. And
Yeah, just ask
I
people.
th- yeah, and some services, like I said, online that you might use fairly frequently, like Amazon has like a half rate plan if you qualify for it as long as you have Medicaid or SNAP benefit,
Right,
food
right.
benefits. I think you get on and it's like $6 a month, and
You
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 get
can
your
also
primed.
get help in Michigan. I don't know if there are other I think there are other places because this is a federal program that I'm hearing that our current president wants to shut down, but they do have help to pay a utility bill. You can get one if you have SNAP or Medicaid and you're under the poverty line and you just have to prove to them you can get, because my mom used to do this, you could get at least one utility bill paid per year. And I also want people to know that it is illegal for them. I think it's April 1st or May 1st. I think it's April 1st or maybe somewhere in April. It's illegal for them to shut your electricity down in the winter. Up until a certain day.
Is that federal though, or is that
I
just
don't know if that's
statewide?
federal or state, but I know in Michigan it is.
Yeah. It might be statewide because some states might not have
Yeah, I
seasonality
was
the
going
way
to
we
say,
do.
it probably is statewide, and it'd be more the colder states. And the reason, for people who are in Florida hearing this, and they're like, well, why would they do that? It's because it's really fucking cold up here, and they want to make sure that people aren't going to die freezing, and they because you need electric to get your heat, to get your heat on usually. So there are programs out there, and I would suggest that people do their best. I know that some people might say, oh, I'm too embarrassed. Unfortunately, you do have to kind of swallow that pride, and you have to go out there and you have to do your thing. And this is the kind of thing you have to do to help yourself. And we just hope that, people can, hopefully the government starts doing things, and this is both sides. Hopefully that they start doing things to help more of these people in the future, or we figure something out, whether it's AI or whatever it is. I don't know. All right. Well, what another great show. I am Mayhem. He is Chaos. And it's been a great show. And until next time, from us to you, have a wonderful week, and thanks for watching.
Bye.